as the southerly flow comes back. Friday, partly sunny, breezy and humid, maybe a spot afternoon shower, but the day is primarily dry, 88. Friday night, partly cloudy and humid, 72. Saturday, partly sunny and humid, nothing more than a spot shower. Basically a dry day, 92, but scattered showers and thunderstorms around on Sunday. From the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Dave Murray on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
Partly cloudy sky, 84, downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, we've still got our jam out west on eastbound Highway 70. This traffic reports a service of Huff Heating and Air Conditioning. It's eastbound 70 near the railroad overpass between Wentzville Parkway and Highway Z. Traffic's jammed back near the weigh scales east of Forest L on eastbound 70 right now. Westbound Highway 70, you got slow traffic at the city limits. There's some heavy stuff 94 to Zumbel, and then it backs up out into that Wentzville Parkway area, taking a look at the eastbound crash. Westbound 64 Kings Highway out through McCausland's on the brakes. It's slow Lindbergh to 270, Clarkson to Topgolf, 94 through K. 364 out to Highway 70, a little more solid. South 270 Bogstown approaching Olive. It's jammed 64 to Clayton Road, but still heavy south of Manchester, and a little bit at a couple of spots, 44 to Gravois. South 170, slow at Ladue. North 170, approaching 70 up through to almost Hanley's pretty heavy from that earlier crash. Southbound Telegraph approaching Forder down through Baumgartner looks backed up. Westbound 44 slow downtown. Eastbound 64 jammed, approaching the Poplar over to 70. 111 to 157, and then it's slow approaching 159. Eastbound 5570 jams at the Illinois end of the Musel Veterans Bridge over to 64, and westbound 70 between the Musel Veterans and McKinley Bridges is heavy. Eastbound 270 on the Chain of Rocks and past 203, there's slow traffic. Next update at 5:20 from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
For dependable, no-pressure home comfort solutions, turn to Huff Heating and Air Conditioning. Locally owned and family-operated for over 40 years. Our team will work with you on a plan that fits your home's needs with financing available. And as always, your family's comfort is our family's business. Learn more at huffheating.com.
News, traffic, and the latest on the Redbirds. This is the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
Sponsored by Busey Bank. Building community with Busey Bank. Beyond the game.
Guys, welcome into Thursday on the Redbird Rush Hour. Nate Gatter filling in for my man, Matt Pauley. Hello, Nate.
Hello, Kevin.
I am Kevin Wheeler, by the way, in case you didn't figure that out by my loud mouth. We got an hour of baseball talk, and then we got Sports Open Line after that. So, obviously, going to keep you busy here on a night with no baseball. No ball game tonight. It's a good night, Nate. And we can do this on the stream. So, if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, feel free to throw in thoughts, questions, opinions, whatever. Because we are officially now just 60 games into the season. There are 102 more games to go, which kind of paints the picture, right? We've seen a lot, but we haven't seen nearly as much as we need to see to know what a team really is. But 60 games through, I think it's pretty much, I think it's pretty simple. You're better than everybody thought you were going to be, and then we'll see. But they're being a little more proactive this year, Nate, where we've already seen a little juice to the roster. And, at the end of last week, called up Jimmy Crooks. And called up Nelson Velasquez. Those guys have now been regulars in the mix. Crooks has had a few nice at-bats and is doing a fine job behind the plate. And Lars Nootbaar's back tomorrow, which should also lengthen the lineup. I don't know how soon he's going to be Lars Nootbaar. Maybe right away. May take a while, but he's going to be back in the mix, which gives you a little bit more offense. And at that point, we're starting to see some guys get crunched a little bit. Victor Scott may get crunched a little bit because Nathan Church is supposed to be back soon, too. Ramon Arias is going to be back soon, which could mean things are a little tight for Thomas Ajaysi. But I think you would agree, I think all of us would agree that follow sports, when you have people competing for positions on the roster, that's probably a good thing because then you don't have to keep people just because you don't have anybody else.
Yeah, in some sense, I think it's a terrible time for Lars Nootbaar to come back because it just adds to this sort of the chaos in the middle of the roster.
Offense, though, boy.
But on the other hand, man, it is a perfect time, right? In some ways, you've been dreading this because we were talking about what does it look like when he does come back? Already, you've got there are crowded conversations happening there about how can we maximize at bats and opportunities for guys, and do you really want to allocate those at bats to Lars Nootbaar? Well, now given. First of all, how well they've played.
Yeah.
And second of all, how poor the offense has been in recent days and weeks and
the
last month. Really.
Yeah.
You're very, I think, very excited about having a bat like Lars Nootbaar in the lineup. And look, it can only, I think, giving him opportunity over the coming month to 2 months only benefits the Cardinals no matter what happens, right? If he really struggles, then eventually you say, okay, we're gonna put him on the bench and we're gonna get a young guy in there, or he's gonna go back on the injured list or whatever it might be. If he does really well, then either he's hitting so well that the Cardinals are in a position where they're kind of looking at maybe they can make the playoffs, or in the sort of worst case scenario, if he does well and the rest of the team doesn't do that well, then you're able to trade him and get something much closer to his top value than what he could command right now coming off the injury. So I'm really excited to see him get back in the lineup, especially because they were able to give him, there was no rush to get him up here. And so he was able to use his maximum 20 days in the minors across 3 different levels. You don't put too much stock into rehab assignment numbers because guys are functioning so much differently.
He's just trying to get back on the field.
Right. And like that, it's relatively few of those games. Was he playing the entire game? Certainly he's not playing the outfield on like all of those kinds of things. So I'm not saying I'm dwelling on exactly what he did or didn't do in the minors, but you're getting a guy who's gotten, maybe not a full spring training, but he's gotten a lot more than a guy normally does if you're having to sort of hurry him back to the big league.
Yeah, they took the full 20 days, which is the maximum a guy can be on a rehab assignment. He's shown power, hit a home run yesterday. And look, when Lars Nootbaar has been healthy, he has never been a below average player. So at the bare minimum, you're raising the floor for one spot in the lineup by him being there. Now, if he's not fully recovered, we'll see. Because, you look at last year's the only year where he was below average. And we know what was going on last year. He had 2 heels that needed surgery at the end of the year. And it was very clear that he was not right through a lot of last year. So the question is, if he's last year Newt, I think that's your low end. Newt's still trying to figure out the legs, and hopefully they come back. Hopefully they're back. Foot injuries are tough for hitters, guys. You cannot underestimate that. It's essentially what did in Alan Craig's career. Was a severe foot injury. Now, more severe injury than what Newt's dealing with, although Newt's is a little strange because you don't see that procedure very often in sports. But when Newt is just normal and healthy, he's a well above average player, and that gives you a massive upgrade over what you've been getting.
Yeah, how do you think it looks? I mean, like, how do you anticipate seeing, whether it's tomorrow or next week or whatever, how do you think, where does Lars slot in, and whose at-bats are you most willing to sacrifice?
Well, I think some of it depends on who else is back, right? But when Nathan Church is back, I think Victor Scott's the odd man out. And I don't know if he's on the roster like 5th outfielder and he's just coming off the bench, or if they're like, no, go get at bats at Memphis.
Right.
That's the better way to get better. Right.
For now, it's easy, right? I mean, if you just look at the lineup from yesterday, you're like, okay, well, Lars goes and plays left field instead of
he's going to. Yeah. He's going to play left field when he comes back. Now, again, early on, I would anticipate they ease him in. He'll play a game or two, take a day off, play a game or two. I can't imagine they're going to be like, here, go play 10 in a row. But, fast forward 2 or 3 weeks. He's your everyday left fielder. And he's probably batting 5th because Nolan Gorman's not hitting like a 5th hitter. So, assuming Newt is reasonably healthy, you slide Nolan Gorman down probably to 7, which makes him a lot more appealing. This is the thing. When you're pushing guys like that.
I don't know if I'd say a lot.
A lot, but put it this way. A lot more than being hitting 5th.
Yes.
Right? A guy that's hitting 5th needs to be productive. A guy hitting 7th or 8th can be occasionally productive, and you can survive it.
Right. He's a bonus.
But when you're hitting in the top 5, you need to be regularly productive.
Yeah.
So if Newt's healthy and going well, now he's 5. Wynn is probably 6. And then you have Gorman and Crooks and whoever's playing center for now, let's say Victor Scott. But think how much that can change in another week because Nathan Church is coming back. So now Nathan Church, who was about average, maybe a little bit below, but right around league average offensively. So now you're raising the floor on center field too. So you may not be adding impact, although I think Jimmy Crooks can be an impact bat. Like, I'm not talking about, winning a home run title or anything, but I'm talking about a guy that's a legitimate threat when he's in the lineup, a legitimate offensive threat. So we've now raised, assuming this goes the way that it can, you've now raised your level of production. You have raised your floor in 3 spots in a week. That's a pretty big deal. Because when you look at this, I'm not sure if you've seen the numbers as Bernie broke them down, but the Cardinals' top 4 in the order, 1 through 4, Weatherholt, Herrera, Burleson, and Walker, rank as a top 3 or 4 group in all of baseball hitting 1 through 4. But then the 5 through 9 is like second to last, I think only ahead of the Rockies. That's what's changing, and to me, that's a big deal. Even league average in 3 of those spots where you're currently way below average makes a huge difference in the consistency of the lineup, And if any of them happen to be better than average, if Newt's what he was in 2024 or 2023, if Jimmy Crooks is actually, that power that he showed at Memphis is going to stay and it's going to show up, now all of a sudden you actually might have significant changes, and that's not even counting the possibility of Joshua Baez showing up somewhere in the not-too-distant future. Not now, but it's not certainly out of the possibility. We could see him in a month.
Or the possibility, I would say maybe even the likelihood that Mason Wynn improves his offensive output from where it's been so far. I'm not saying he's going to start tearing the cover off the ball, but I don't think either of us feel like he's a 630 OPS guy. Like that's who he really is, right?
I hope not. I mean
I feel like he's got to be closer to a 700 guy just based on like what we've seen from him prior to this year. I would be stunned if it turns out that the guy that we're going to get the rest of the way is this level of offensive production. So, but that feeds right into your point.
Change some things, though.
That just feeds right into your point, though, which is that there's going to all of a sudden you go from a lineup that has like half of it full of outs,
right?
where to a lineup where you're saying, all right, we've got now instead of just 4 above average guys, we've got at least another 3 guys we probably feel good about being average, all of whom have upside.
And could be more than average, right?
And then at the very bottom of the lineup, you've got some below average, but if it's Gorman hitting
elite
8th,
defense,
for example,
right?
If it's Gorman hitting 8th, right, if it's Wynn, it's elite defense. And if it's Gorman, it's below average, but very high upside, right? If he gets hot for a week or two or whatever.
Potential, right.
You're having a guy who can change the game with one swing, even if it doesn't happen that often. And in the 8 or 9 spot, all of a sudden that feels a lot better.
Yeah, and as long as he stays, it's like right now he rates above average defensively this year. So if he stays there, he needs to be a better hitter. Let's be real, okay? Like long term, he's not my third baseman next year going like this. But you don't really have another option, which is something we can talk about in the next segment. We won't have time here, but we got a couple of texts coming in on this because we get a lot of questions about Blaze Jordan. And Matt and Bernie and I talked about it earlier in the week, but I think it's worth expanding on because he's legitimately the only option. And the team is telling you how much of an option they think he is because he's not playing third base at Memphis right now. He's playing first in DH. So we'll get into that. But I think on the Gorman thing, to wrap it up for now, for next year, third base is wide open. You may seek something outside. Maybe somebody changes positions. Maybe they eventually decide Rainiel Rodriguez should be a third baseman instead of a catcher because they're loaded at catcher. And, hey, he's such a good bat. Maybe we don't want him to have to go through the wear and tear of that. A lot of ways that this can go for the long term. Right now, you don't have many choices for third base. I mean, and we'll talk about Blaze Jordan in a minute. There's your tease. We'll get to that coming up in the next segment, along with other things as well. But the point here is you've been better than expected, but I think you're getting better right now. I think you're getting better in June than your roster was in April and May. And that may be even better come July if you're seeing Joshua Baez show up. And maybe even Blaze Jordan gets a look at some point in some way, shape, or form. Probably not at third base very often. Nate Gatter in for Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. We got a lot to do until 6 o'clock. Feel free to jump in on the stream. We'll address all kinds of topics, all kinds of comments and questions as we roll through Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
Hi, I'm Mark Cantor. The people around here are hardworking people, just like you. And when someone in your family gets hurt in a car wreck, everything can change very fast. That's why having a local lawyer matters. At Cantor Injury Law, we know these towns, these roads, and the people who drive them every day. When you call us, you're calling a local team with boots on the ground, ready to fight for you. You can count on Cantor.
CantorInjuryLaw.com. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertising.
Mizzou football will be here before you know it. Join us for the 100th anniversary of Memorial Stadium with season tickets. Join the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist and get ready to lock in tickets for 2026. The home schedule is highlighted by games against Florida, Texas A&M, Texas, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. Don't wait to reserve your spot. Join the waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
Attention all dog owners. If you have ever listened to the radio or TV for any length of time, you've probably heard of America's #1 dog supplement, Rough Greens. Greetings, naturopathy Dr. Dennis Black, Amazon best-selling author and founder of Rough Greens here. And if your dog suffers from bad breath, itchy skin, licking paws, joint pain, or low energy, the truth is their food is probably to blame. You see, all commercial dog food is dead food. That's why I created Rough Greens. One daily scoop gives your pup the live vitamins, omega oils, probiotics, and enzymes that will bring their food back to life. Don't believe me? Let your dog try it before you buy it. I'll send you a free Jumpstart trial bag, risk-free. You just cover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com. That's RUFFgreens.com. Use discount code NEWS. Don't wait. Give your dog the gift of vibrant health. Order now. It'll be at your house in a few days. Go to roughgreens.com. That's RUFFgreens.com. Discount code NEWS for your free Jumpstart trial bag today. Rough Green. We make any dog food better.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, we still got our trouble on eastbound Highway 70. This traffic reports the service of United Way of Greater St. Louis, helpingpeople.org. That's that crash eastbound 70 east of Wentzville Parkway. Right lane still shut down. Traffic's jammed east of Forestel. Westbound 70 heavy from the city limits out toward Lucas Hunt, 94 to Zembel, and approaching Highway A out into that Wentzville Parkway area. Westbound 64 Kings Highway out through McCausland's bumper-to-bumper pockets, backed up both ways through the Chesterfield Parkways. Westbound slow to Topgolf, and westbound jams 94 through K, and then it's slow 364 to 70. South 270 bunches up in spots approaching Olive down through Doherty Ferry past 44. It's a little slow. South 170 on the brakes between Delmar and Ladue. North 170 slow, 70 up to Airport Road. If you're on westbound 44 backed up approaching the Poplar downtown, eastbound 64 jams on the Poplar over to 5570, and 64 again 111 to 157 is jammed, and eastbound 70 backs up east of the Musial Veterans Bridge. Also delays eastbound 270 east of Route 3 to 111. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
When our neighbors need support, United Way brings people together, helping families, helping children, helping people through everyday challenges, and building hope for tomorrow. Unite with us at helpingpeople.org.
Now, back to the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
Sponsored by Busey Bank. Building community with Busey Bank. Beyond the game.
All right, it's Thursday on Redbird Rush Hour. Nate Gatter in for Matt Pauley tonight. And I'm Kevin Wheeler, obviously, talking ball. Let's get into the Blaze Jordan thing for a couple seconds, Nate. It's not something I think we have to spend a ton of time on. And Matt Pauley made this point on Twitter, maybe a day or two ago, and Bernie Miklasz has been on this too. We do need to calm down with the Blaze Jordan talk to come up to play third base. Not because he doesn't deserve an opportunity at some point to play in the big leagues. He's having a great year. He's really hitting the ball hard. For a lot of modern players, Nate, he's a bit of a unicorn in the sense that he's a guy that has great bat speed, hits the ball hard, but doesn't strike out very much. Maybe that's a knock on him because he probably puts pitches in play that he shouldn't, which leads to some easier contact. That'll be a thing we'll see how it plays out in the big leagues. But he's definitely having a good year, and he's a guy that will be in the conversation to play in the big leagues. But as Matt Pauley pointed out, I think accurately, if they were planning on him coming up to play third base anytime soon, he would be playing third base right now. But he hasn't been. Ramon Mendoza's playing there again tonight. He's played like 6 straight games at first base or DH, speaking of Blaze Jordan. If the team were prepping him to come up and play third in the short term, he would be playing third.
What are the other options? Because I don't know if I've got 102 more of Nolan Gorman at third base in me right now.
Okay, yeah, that's obviously that's a great question because there's no good answer. Your guys on the roster, Fermin has a worse OPS than Gorman, and no power potential. He'll put the ball in play, but it's not very hard. So JC's been terrible, and again, some of it's his fault, some of it's not. Hasn't gotten a lot of playing time. His spring was jacked up because he was with Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic, didn't play a lot for them, and missed a lot of reps in games there. So I understand why it is. I'm not down on Sajasi long term, but he's clearly, he's hitting $180 and 520 OPS. Like, he's not showing you that he's worthy of everyday playing time there. So, other than those guys, we've seen Prieto. He was hitless up here. They don't have many options. They have great depth at catcher. They have a lot of outfielders. They've got some pitching depth building. They got a ton of guys who can play second base. Of course, every team has a ton of guys that can play second base. But they're short on the left side. If you look at the minor league level, in the upper levels, AA and AAA, they don't have an alternative at third base or shortstop if something were to happen to Mason Wynn. It's okay, but here's the way I think you handle this starting in the next week or so, Nate. One, Arias is going to be back soon. He's going out on a rehab assignment. It sounds like this weekend he and Nathan Church are getting out there, and they could be back next week. Well, Arias kills lefties. So you now have an option against lefties where and because Gorman's not earning. I wasn't a big fan of platooning him in the past, But right now, he's not earning it. He's been getting regular playing time, and he's not hitting righties. So why am I going to go out of my way to give you opportunities against lefties when you're not even hitting righties? So you have that alternative to have a better option on offense when you're facing left-handed pitching. I think that's a start. And then, look, in July, maybe there's a trade that cleans this up. You could trade from your catching depth. Depending on how your team is doing, you might be trading Nootbaar, you might be keeping him. Who the hell knows? There's a scenario where in July you trade the veteran player and then you promote Joshua Baez to come play left field. You know, there's a lot that can go into it, but I think for the next, let's see, where are we at? For the next month and a half, your options are basically going to be Gorman and Arias with the occasional option of Fermin and Saggese. That's the way it is right now. And by the way, again, as you mentioned, you hit it. If any of those guys are playing and batting 8th, it's okay.
Yeah. Right.
If they're batting 5th, it's a problem.
Yeah, this team can win with those guys hitting 8th or 9th. I think it's and look, you can make the argument that, and I did make it early on, so maybe this is me, dealing with the consequences of my own actions, right? It's saying so consistently that what was so exciting about this year, and the reason we were all excited about it before the Cardinals started playing well and giving us other reasons to be excited about it, is just a real commitment to let's run those guys out there every day. And, although 60 games is a significant sample size, like as you said, we're not even halfway through the season. So maybe the answer is that I need to eat my words, and another, 2 months of Nolan Gorman at third base primarily is not the end of the world, because, just give him every single opportunity. And if he's hitting 8th, then it's not that big of a deal. But it feels more glaring, I think, now, because we have so many other reasons to be excited, right? There are many. Yeah, there is reason for optimism, either in a guy who's already on the roster or a guy who's at AAA and expects to be on the roster imminently at every position except third base, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's why now poor Nolan Gorman, as though what he needs is even more pressure on him to perform better, he becomes not only a guy who's struggling and who's not meeting expectations, but a guy who's doing it and sticking out because he's on a team of so many guys who are either meeting or exceeding expectations, or we still have optimism they will meet or exceed expectations.
Yeah, and look, you're not going to find a baseball team that is strong 1 to 9 in the lineup. So I guess this is going to sound like a backhanded shot at Gorman. It's not. It's not at all. It's just a reflection of the reality. Probably the best way to improve the situation at third base is to have guys at other positions hitting better.
Yeah, take a little pressure off of him.
Well, and also it just means you're getting the offense from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So if Newt can provide it and Jimmy Crooks look, I'd be floored if Jimmy is not a significantly better offensive player than Paez. I mean, significantly. It'd be shocking to me if he's not. So you're getting better there because between him and Herrera, you're getting offense from the catcher position. That's one way to offset another spot being weak, is to get offense from your catcher. So if you're getting that, if Newt is giving you stuff, and then Nathan Church is back, and we no longer have Victor Scott out there as one of the worst hitters in Major League Baseball, but now you have a close to league average hitter, that's what lessens the worry about what Gorman's presence does to your offense. He still has to answer the question, though, is there going to be a consistent guy in there or not? And as of now, the answer is it doesn't look like it. By the end of the year, we'll have the real answer, and I'm sure the team will have a plan. Because if he doesn't show anything by the end of the year, well, they'll find another way.
It's so funny that the conversation, how many years did we spend talking about how, well, so-and-so who we're excited about is blocked at third base. Right. And now we're like, if there was only a third baseman out there somewhere we could promote, we could put in this position, we could give some games to, But, again, it is, I do think we dwell on it more because so many of the other spots have solidified themselves either already or we have a solidified next up option that's coming. And that is a real credit. I know it probably sounds like I have no vested interest in spinning these conversations into a positive about the Cardinals. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But I do think that it is a tremendous credit to the organization to the front office how quickly that has happened. And some of it is, I don't want to say luck, but some of it is kind of luck, right? Chaim Bloom didn't do anything differently than John Mozeliak did to make Jordan Walker all of a sudden way better.
Well,
right?
they actually did quite
well,
but it was stuff
it's
it was
execution,
stuff
right?
started by Mo.
Right, and it's execution. Like
But
he
it's
can't go down there.
finishing now,
He
right.
can't go down there and hit the ball for him. You know what I
Right,
mean? So like
right.
some of this is guys playing better.
Yes.
But it does feel like very quickly the organization is just in a different stance, both in terms of where it is now and where it is likely to be. And I think that's really refreshing. Even if there's a hole at third base, it really just calls the attention. It's important that we not get so caught up focusing on the hole at third base and not see how many holes are filled in or in the process of being
Getting
filled in
yeah.
compared to what we were talking about a year ago, where we're like, well, this team doesn't have a lot of holes, but it's got kind of a lot of just, like it doesn't have a lot of exciting terrain out there either. And this, it just feels dramatically different to me now than it did a year ago.
Nate Gatter's in for Matt Pauley. I'm Kevin Wheeler. Stick around. More Redbird Rush Hour after the news on KMOX.
At 5:30, this update is sponsored by Michael's Flooring Outlet, the flooring experts, michaelsflooringoutlet.com. We've got a partly cloudy sky at the moment, 84 degrees downtown at the Arch. The St. Louis Board of Police Commissioners is reacting to the mayor's latest criticism in the two sides' heated budgetary battle. Mayor Kara Spencer says a just revealed plan to give commanders raises of up to 22% could wreck the city budget, which must be finalized within weeks. Asked to react, Police Department spokesman Mitch McCoy calls the fight political theater.
The mayor's comments are not helpful to the shared common goal I think we all have as St. Louisans.
The board put off a decision on those raises until June 17th. In St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore's 3 years since taking over the chaotic office, he's increased the number of cases issued and filled out most of the vacant attorney positions. Now comes a new challenge, keeping those attorneys.
Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore says they have a strong but young team of trial attorneys, with 25 of the 49 on staff with 3 years experience or less. Gore says finding ways to offer better compensation is needed to not lose so many of them to the private sector.
Our staff and attorneys don't get any compensation for parking, and that's something that we hope that we can get some kind of modest subsidy for parking.
Gore adds, including their 4 child support attorneys and 3 incoming graduates they have hired, they have 55 of their 57 attorney positions filled and plan to ask for more attorneys next year to keep caseloads per attorney down. Sean Malone, KMOX News.
Now a KMOX follow-up. For months, we've been telling you about badly delayed mail across the region. This week, the issue reached Congress. At a House hearing today, Metro East Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski pressed the Postal Service's independent regulator on how its nationwide overhaul is affecting service. Postal Regulatory Commission Vice Chair Robert Taub didn't sugarcoat it.
We were seeing what was going to be created was creating a tale of two Americas, shall we say. Rural America is going to see delayed service, slower service under this plan.
Taub's commission says it warned the Postal Service about that plan more than a year ago. Budzinski chairs the bipartisan Postal Service caucus and says Congress has to step in to protect both workers and mail delivery itself. A major change for electric bikes, scooters, and powered skateboards is one signature away in Illinois. Lawmakers from both parties passed a bill setting the first statewide safety rules for the vehicles. It's now waiting for Governor Pritzker's signature. Secretary of State Alexi Janulius, who championed the bill, put it this way.
Our goal is simple: prevent injuries, save lives, and ensure that Illinois is prepared for the transportation technologies of today and tomorrow.
The bill keeps the e-bikes most people ride legal, but cracks down on the high-powered models, some of which could hit highway speeds. Riders of those would need a license and insurance. Scooters and skateboards get a 28-mile-an-hour cap, and no device would be allowed on sidewalks.
St. Louis has been awarded the 2028 U.S. Olympic Trials Marathon. Right here.
Local Olympic track and field legend Jackie Joyner-Kersee making the big announcement. St. Louis will officially kick off the 2028 Olympic Games with the very first event. The Olympic trials for marathon will take place in March 28 and determine the very first members of Team USA. The marathon route is meant to evoke the 1904 Olympics, winding through WashU, Forest Park, downtown, and the Arch grounds. From the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Center for tonight, clear sky, low 66. For Friday, sunshine, more humid, some spotty afternoon showers and thundershowers, but those should be limited. High temperature of 88 degrees. Right now, we've got some clouds. It's 84 downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
It's time for Building Community with Busey Bank Beyond the Game. This week we feature an organization that makes sure kids have the sports equipment they need while also helping to keep plastics and metals out of landfills. Magdalene Sparrow is the executive director and founder of Passback, an organization that provides sports equipment for kids while also making sure that equipment does not get thrown away before it should.
At Passback, we're creating a circular economy for sports gear so every kid can play. What that looks like is we work with sports clubs, retailers, schools, manufacturers, and surplus, and we do the reverse logistics. So if it's new or used, we'll collect it, take it to our warehouse, we process it, sort it, organize it, and then we work with schools and nonprofits serving families that need it.
The organization has a dual focus of giving kids the opportunity to participate in sports while also helping the planet.
It's really expensive for a bunch of kids to try all these different sports. They grow out of their shoes every season, and at the same time, almost all of these items are plastic and metal, and they're not reaching their full life cycle potential. So it's kind of a win-win-win for businesses, people, and the planet.
As a high-level athlete getting new equipment annually, Sparrow saw an opportunity to make an impact.
My own closet, I went on to play D1 soccer, looked exactly the same. I was getting brand new gear every year, and I was acutely aware of how so many other kids do not have the same opportunity.
And what an impact it's been. Every kid that goes and plays sports improves their health, and by providing for so many kids, Passback has made a huge dent in lowering healthcare costs.
Equipped more than 7,000 kids with sports gear, which ultimately creates about $22 million in preventative healthcare costs.
Passback provides soccer, volleyball, basketball, running, baseball, and softball gear. You can learn more about them by visiting the website passback-official.org. Building community with Busey Bank Beyond the Game.
Hanging out live at Community America Credit Union in Des Peres for the new headquarters and branch grand opening, 11780 Manchester Road, 11780 Manchester Road in Des Peres. Going to be here until 7 o'clock tonight, and you are going to want to stop by because a lot of Cardinal stuff is happening at the Community America Credit Union. Former players Matt Adams, Kevin Segrest making appearances, Team Redbird on site as well, and your opportunity to win Cardinals tickets for an upcoming game in July on the 8th, and an opportunity to win the chance to throw out the first pitch, the ceremonial first pitch. Wouldn't that be a whole lot of fun? Well, if you come out here and sign up, you will have the opportunity to win that big prize and some other prizes as well. We've got swag to give away with a big ATM. Come check it out. The Community America Credit Union until 7 o'clock in Des Peres, 11780 Manchester Road. Chris Ranji with the Chris and Amy Show, and we'll see you soon.
In 1991, John and Cindy Morelli started Morelli Tuck Pointing. As of today, they've won just about every award possible for the tuck pointing business. The BBB Torch Award, the Next Door Neighborhood Fave Award, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. For homeowners, this is a great time to get a free inspection of your basement, your brick or stone fireplace, your garage interior, your porch, and maybe even your walkway. Indoor tuck pointing can be started now. Hi, this is Charlie Brennan. My wife Beth and I have used Morelli Tuck Pointing to work on 2 of our homes now over the last 25 years. We have found the Morelli bids to be fair, their crews are very polite, and they clean up after themselves. But most importantly, their work is beautiful. Family owned and operated since 1991. 314-645-1387, MorelliTuckPointing.com.
Escape to Florence with the Tony Award-winning musical The Light in the Piazza at Opera Theater of St. Louis. This dazzling production stars Broadway favorites Kate Baldwin and Paulo Schott and brings to life an enchanting tale of romance, adventure, and self-discovery. Follow a young woman as she finds herself swept away by the beauty and passion of sun-drenched Italy. Performances run May 30th through June 28th, and tickets start at just $25. For tickets and information, visit experienceopera.org.
This is the take care of my family goal. This is the enjoy the life I've built goal. This is the set up a foundation goal. This is Busey, where your goals become lasting legacies. Through bespoke plans that maximize your wealth, through partnerships that give you peace of mind. Because building wealth, tending to it, and passing it down secures a brighter future. Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. Member FDIC.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-day kitchen and bath. It's all about time.
Save time and money.
Do it now, don't wait till later. Call the top-notch renovator. It's about time.
3 days or less.
At 3-day kitchen and bath.
The road to the United Bowl starts here. Your St. Louis Battlehawks have clinched the playoffs and earned Dome Field advantage. Playoff football is coming back to St. Louis, Sunday, June 7th at 5 p.m. Get your tickets now at UFLBattlehawks.com. United, we battle.
For all station contest rules, go to KMOX.com/rules.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, eastbound 70 is getting better quickly, but there's still delays east of Forest Ellen to David Hokel Parkway and then approaching Wentzville Parkway. Westbound Highway 70, still slow 94 to Zumbel and A out through 61. Westbound 64 bunches up still from Kings Highway, runs all the way out through Big Bend. Clarkson to Topgolf, 94 to K, and then Lake St. Louis Boulevard, a couple of pockets to 70. South 270 is just slow from 64 down to about Doherty Ferry, 44 to Gravois. Westbound 44, the ramp lanes are at Geyer, and then there's a brief slowdown west of 141. Westbound 40 downtown, 44 is backed up between the bridges. Eastbound 64, east of Route 3 to 70, and east of 111 to 157, and eastbound 70, a brief backup running through Packers Avenue. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
The new Haverty's Furniture Showroom is now open in Gravois Bluffs. Come visit us now. Ready to refresh your space with furniture that's built to last? The new Haverty's Furniture Showroom is now open in Fenton and Gravois Bluffs. Experience Haverty's regret-free guarantee for yourself and shop the latest in living rooms, bedrooms, and more. Visit Haverty's now in Gravois Bluffs.
Now, back to the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
Sponsored by Busey Bank. Building community with Busey Bank. Beyond the game.
All right, guys, Redbird Rush Hour here on KMOX. Matt Pauley's out tonight. Nate Gatter is in. Obviously, Cardinals and the Reds get back after it tomorrow in a 3-game series. A little bit more on the Cards. We'll take Cards talk up to the top of the hour. Interesting thing, as we were talking about this, Nate, as this season goes along, is going to be really, kind of following the path that the season takes the Cardinals, right? Because you came in, we all know, the plan is we're they don't like to say rebuild, but we all called it a rebuild, right? You're rebuilding. You got very young. You got rid of all your older veteran players.
Joke's kind of on us now, huh?
No, hey, look. But see, they've actually benefited from it because the guys they moved out were on the wrong side of this. Now, look, Sonny Gray is having a good year in Boston. Your rotation would be better with Sonny Gray in it right now. Although the guys you have are doing a fine job. Like they're not all aces, but they're all doing a fine job. They're very competitive. But what you have, what essentially is what you've had is the breakout with Jordan Walker is kind of the difference maker, right? If you had Jordan Walker at this level last year, you probably never rebuild.
Yeah.
If he hit like this last year, you win probably 6 or 7 more games. You're in a wild card game, and you're not rebuilding.
It's a good point. I hadn't even
thought
about that.
That's kind of that's what it's not just him, right? It's JJ too, because JJ is having maybe the best rookie season of any second baseman in the last 100 years. But isn't it crazy? Like, if that had happened a year sooner, the entire plan would be different. Sonny Gray's probably still here. But this is why I think it's fascinating, because you just don't know what it's going to do, right? And the way this year has played out has now put us in a spot where we thought July would be a good time. You can maybe trade Riley O'Brien. You could maybe trade Lars Nootbaar. There are some valuable pieces there. Maybe trade Dustin May. And now you're looking at it going, maybe we should keep those guys and give it a run. Now, the next 8 weeks will tell us, what that's going to look like. But it's a fascinating thing to me how very simple things, basically 2 guys, one guy showing up for the first time and one guy figuring it out, changes entirely what your team looks like.
Yeah. I mean, and it changes the whole vibe like we've been talking about. It changes the entire perspective, I think, of the fan base. What's interesting to me now is the same thing that always is, which is to your point, how you're always reacting to things, right? Like if I were Chaim Bloom, my mindset going into, I was essentially fact gathering last year, which is more or less what he was. Not to downplay. I mean, he was also doing things and
setting things up at the minor league level, getting the staff hired that they want. Right.
But when I'm kind of gathering information and laying that foundation, certainly when I'm in the offseason, and I think his moves back this up, and then during this year, I think his mind is probably the same as it is with any baseball operations head who's in this position, and this position being one that I think is really exciting, where he has a very inexpensive, relatively young roster and pretty good prospect potential behind them. It's not absolutely elite maybe, but it's pretty darn good, and it's dramatically better than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
he's at, I would imagine, for an executive, the most exciting time there is, right? Because it must be great to be the executive who built a 100-win team and watches them cruise to a World Series, but your work's kind of done. At that point, it's the manager then. Yeah. The manager's living his dream when he's got the 95 100-win team and he gets to try to push them over the edge.
Yeah.
Right? That's his domain.
Yeah.
Your domain is to take
the builder.
the 75 80-win team and turn them into the 100-win team. That's your job. Or at least the 90 to 95-win team, and find the manager who's going to get them that extra few games, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
This is the time, the next couple years, he gets to control what the next 5 to 10 years of Cardinals baseball looks like. And so if I were him, my mindset would be, how long can I keep every option open to myself?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How long can I keep? But you can't wait too long and miss your window to really go for it. We're not close probably to when he has to pull the trigger on the Cardinals really going for it. But it's going to be, how does he balance? This is this year's trade deadline. It's next offseason. It's probably a conversation that goes on through all of next year at the very least, is how does he continue to build in trying to give this team opportunities? Because if this is a team that's good enough to make the playoffs, you want to be in the playoffs for any number of reasons. First of all, because any team that's in it can win it. Second of all, because even if they don't win it, getting these guys September and ultimately October experience is invaluable with the level of relative inexperience that's on this team and the roles those guys are in. And so he doesn't want to stand in the way of that. Clearly, this is not, at this stage, it's no longer accurate to call this a rebuild. Whether it really was one coming into the year and caught us all off guard, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Now, they're in a position that it's not fair to call them a rebuilding team right now. It is much more fair to call them a retooling team, or whatever euphemism they would have wanted to use in the offseason. That's kind of turned out to be true. And so you don't want to stand in the way of that. But he also obviously can't sacrifice anything for the longer term. I think that's going to be so interesting to watch. Him dancing on that knife edge. That's a little dramatic, but it's sort of
the threshold there.
He is dancing on it of, when is the right time to go through this particular door, and how can I keep as many avenues open to myself as possible, as much flexibility as possible, until it's time, whether it's next year or the year after or the year after that, to pull the trigger and saying we're going for it.
That's Nate Gatter in for Matt Pauley. I'm Kevin Wheeler. Stick around. We'll wrap up Redbird Rush Hour and get you ready for Sports Open Line next here on KMOX.
This is the story of the one who keeps multiple buildings running smoothly day after day. Plumbing that flows, HVAC that hums, cleaning supplies that keep surfaces sparkling. That's why she counts on Grainger. With easy reordering online and 24/7 support, Grainger helps her keep the products she needs on hand, so shelves stay stocked and buildings stay ready. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done. This is the story of the one who keeps multiple buildings running smoothly day after day. Plumbing that flows, HVAC that hums, cleaning supplies that keep surfaces sparkling. That's why she counts on Grainger. With easy reordering online and 24/7 support, Grainger helps her keep the products she needs on hand, so shelves stay stocked and buildings stay ready. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Broadcasting from the Scott Credit Union Studio, 104.1 FM, KMOX.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com.
Want to make the most of your tax refund? File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it. With a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
the legendary Fast Eddie at Fast Eddie's Bon Air, and St. Louis baseball legend Jason Isringhausen.
Izzy, what's going on, man?
You know what, Eddie boy, I've been pretty busy. Got to get out there and got to do the mowing.
Yep, I'll tell you what, when you get done mowing the grass.
Well, I do my best Forrest Gump impression with all of that mowing I have to do around the property.
Do it for St. Louis, do it.
Like Mama said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, except at Fast Eddie's Bon Air. What are we going to get at Fast Eddie's?
Let me get it right. You can come on over to Fast Eddie's Bar Bon Air, located on the other side of Clark Bridge in beautiful Alton, Illinois. When you're done mowing the grass, come over here and lounge around with me on the beautiful outdoor patio with all the big screens, the live music playing, the hot chick on a stick.
What about that fancy surf and turf you came up with?
Man, I'm telling you what, that is meat and seafood on one stick, and it's called the Eddie. It's the king of all foods.
Like Mr. Shannon always said, if you're 21 and in the mood, come on over to that Clark Bridge and come see Fast Eddie's Bon Air in beautiful Alton, Illinois.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, if you're traveling home on westbound Highway 70, we still have some slow traffic going westbound, running out from the city limits. It doesn't look bad, but it's still a little busy around Zumbel. A little heavy right at 61. Eastbound 70 is a lot better. Wentzville Parkway into 64 is the slowest part there. Westbound 64 is still a little volume sign center to McCausland. West of Clarkson to Topgolf, a little busy west of Highway K, and then just approaching Prospect. So again, it's opening up at that spot. South 170 bogs down at the Parkway. North 170 is cleared out. South 270, 64 down through Clayton Road opens up before you get to Manchester. West 44, the right lanes are a guy or brief slowdown west of 141 downtown. Eastbound 64 through to 70 is jammed. It's still backed up east of 111 through 157 and still slow. Another slow spot headed up the hill to 159. Eastbound 70 just kind of crowded right around Packers Avenue. Next update at 5:59 from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
It is just about 5:51 here in the KMOX studio. This time check is sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
This summer, there's no better place to catch Team USA in the FIFA World Cup 26 than the Beer Garden at Anheuser-Busch. We hosted KMOX listeners there last week, and trust us, the atmosphere is incredible. Huge screens, great seats everywhere, ice-cold beer, $15 Michelob Ultra pitchers, $20 Ultra buckets, $5 Ultra drafts, and collectible FIFA cups while supplies last. Bring your crew, cheer on Team USA at the Beer Garden. Visit BudweiserTours.com for details.
Hey, it's Matt and Leslie Holiday. When we got to St. Louis, it wasn't long before we started searching for a way to give back.
We visited Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, and we knew this is where we belonged.
Homers for Health has been going strong for 15 years and has made such an unbelievable impact on the hospital. I've won a World Series, but I consider the work we've done at Cardinal Glennon to be the greatest achievement.
Yes, your support truly makes a difference. Make your pledge for patients today at homersforhealth.org to benefit the devoted fund.
Now, back to the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
Sponsored by Busey Bank. Building community with Busey Bank. Beyond the game.
All right, just a few minutes left on Redbird Rush Hour. And, of course, Nate Gatter in for Matt Pauley. Nate's got Sports Open Line coming up after the top of the hour. What do you got tonight? What are you doing? Anything fun?
We are going to be talking to Bernie because he didn't get to have his normal appearance last night because of the Cardinals. We'll be talking to Lauren Harris, who's a name you probably don't know, but St. Louis area sports fans should know. Former Division II softball player of the year, four-time All-American, who took the McKendree University Bearcats softball team to a national runner-up finish. Their season just finished yesterday, so we'll talk to her. And Bill McDermott will be with us during the second hour as well to preview both the Bosnian final tune-up for the World Cup at Energizer Park Saturday, and then the World Cup proper starting next week.
How about that?
It's right around the corner. Feels like we've been waiting on it for so long.
It's like a thing that was like off in the distance, and I blinked yesterday. I was like, oh, wow, that's next week.
Yeah, it's one of those things I think that anytime you start anticipating an event when it's, more than 5 years away or whatever, it was probably 7-8 years when it was announced, maybe even longer, and you have it circled from that long out, I think it feels like it's just never going to get there. Like it's not even real. Right, it's just out there somewhere in the vague future. It's always going to be later on, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's a few months, and it still doesn't feel that much more real. And now we're a week away, and it still hasn't totally hit me yet. I don't think.
Yep, it's getting there. And look, I'm not a soccer hater. Like I'm not one of those people that wants to yell at it. I don't follow it very closely because I didn't grow up with it, but I follow the World Cup. It's like the Olympics to me. There's a lot of stuff that happens in an Olympic year that I don't normally follow that I'm going to follow when the Olympics come around. This is along those lines to me. It's just that big. When you've got the best people in the world playing for the nations, it's hard to beat that in terms of the atmosphere it creates competitively.
Yeah, and it's cool. I mean, especially now, I'm not sure I'm in favor of expanding every possible sporting tournament we can to maximize television revenue, but now that we have close to a quarter of the countries in the world sending teams to it, I mean, it's even bigger global gathering. And there is something cool about that, about the chance for so many cultures to come together and celebrate what they're doing, including a lot of countries that otherwise wouldn't have gotten that opportunity and where, there might be some countries that you couldn't point out on a map, but it caused you to Google them. Same as, the Olympics might. Speaking of Olympics, I'll try to mention this during Sports Open Line, but also just announced today that St. Louis is going to get to essentially kick off Los Angeles 2028 with the first event. The Olympic Marathon Team Trial will be here in St. Louis in 2028.
Yeah,
That's pretty fun.
JJK announced that today. That's pretty cool stuff. All right, Sports Open Line's coming up next. One last baseball note for you guys if you want to follow fun stuff. You've got Quinn Matthews, Liam Doyle, and Tanner Franklin all pitching in the Cardinal system today. So enjoy that. Nate, have fun tonight, buddy. You got Sports Open Line after the news on KMOX.
Chris Ranji from the Chris and Amy Show out here in Des Peres at the new Community America Credit Union. It is the grand opening, and until 7 o'clock out here, the new headquarters in Branch, 11780 Manchester Road. That's 11780 Manchester in Des Peres. It is open. It is free to the public, and we're here in conjunction with the Cardinals. Redbird making an appearance. Former players Matt Adams and Kevin Segrest, they're all going to be here as well today. And a chance for you to win prizes from the big ATM. That's the Amazing Things machine. An opportunity to win Cardinals tickets as well, and the possibility of throwing out a first pitch. You've got to come down to Community America Credit Union as they celebrate the grand opening here again until 7 o'clock tonight in Des Peres. Hoping to see you. Stop by here at Community America Credit Union in Des Peres.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. One question I'm always asked is, how did you become the largest injury firm in the world with over 1,000 attorneys and $25 billion in verdicts and settlements? One way was our financial strength. Medical malpractice is the third leading cause of death in America. To prosecute a typical case costs up to $250,000 in case cost. We advance them all. Product liability cases can have similar costs with an army of lawyers on the other side. Automobile insurance companies have the resources to fight. Guess what? So do we. Many law firms simply may not have the financial firepower to work up your case the way you deserve. And we don't charge by the hour. No recovery, no fee. If you have a question about your case or wish to become a client, go to forthepeople.com on your mobile device or computer. 24/7. It's that easy. Morgan & Morgan. Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Let me tell you something about insurance. When you sign your insurance policy, for some brokers, that's the finish line. Handshake, commission, done. Then you may not hear from them again until it's time for renewal. But your business runs all year, so do the gaps and the risk. So go to supersure.com. If your company has more than 25 employees, whether you're the owner, CFO, or HR manager, it can be too complex to just go buy a policy online. Supersure is the super agency built for you, licensed in every state for your business insurance and employee benefits, all with year-round support for you and your team. At supersure.com, you can access tools like fine print facts. It'll translate your current policy into plain English so you see what's covered and what's not. Plus a business value calculator so you can estimate what your business is worth so you know what actually needs protecting. Go to supersure.com. One super agency, one powerful platform, all your policies in one place. Supersure.com. That's supersure.com. Paid for by Supersure Insurance Agency, LLC, a licensed insurance agency.
A common question I receive is, how is the market right now? It just seems so volatile. Hi, I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty. If you want to buy or sell but feel overwhelmed by the whiplash of the market, then let's talk. With over 23 years as a broker, I have the exact experience you need to help you navigate this tricky market. Call me at 314-441-4444. 314-441-all-4s. And remember, why pay more than two?
Commissions are not regulated and are negotiable. Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
Feel the rhythm and turn it up, St. Louis. Legendary rock icons Santana and the Doobie Brothers are bringing the heat to Hollywood Casino Amphitheater June 20th for the Oneness Tour 2026. From Black Magic Woman to Listen to the Music, this is the concert event fans don't want to miss. It'll be a summer night soon not forgotten. Santana, the Doobie Brothers. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.com. For more info, go to KMOX.com/events.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, we still got some slow traffic out in the Wentzville area, eastbound, just coming in through Wentzville Parkway, past 64 to about Highway A. It's unwinding from an earlier crash we had east of Wentzville Parkway. If you're on westbound 64, there's just some slow traffic approaching 94 to a point just west of K. Eastbound 64 around the Interbelt, still a little heavy, like 170 to Hanley. South 170 is kind of slow at Brentwood Boulevard. If you're on southbound 55, that looks good. On the Illinois side, it's better. There's still a slowdown, though. Eastbound 64, 3rd Street over to 70, and then eastbound 64 backs up east of 255, or approaching 255 through 157. It opens up before you get midway up the hill to 159. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
The trusted voice of St. Louis. KMOX AM St. Louis. KMOX FM Hazelwood. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. Democrats say they will hold up a key national security bill if President Trump does not replace his pick for temporary director of national intelligence. It's the U.S. mortgage chief, William Pulte, who has no national intelligence background. Today in the Oval Office, the president said,
"It's an acting position. It's not a permanent. He's not going to be permanent because, I don't think he'd want to be permanent. But he's a very smart guy, and he may find out some things about the rigged elections, et cetera, et cetera."
President said that he intends to nominate Todd Blanche to be the permanent attorney general. He's currently the acting AG, but some key Republicans in the Senate say they want more information about Blanche's background as President Trump's lawyer. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton set to plead guilty to illegally retaining national security information, and sources say he'll pay a fine of more than $2 million. On the eve of the May jobs report, the Dow closed at a new record high, up more than 1%. This is ABC News. Police in Northern California are asking for information after a shooting in the parking lot of a high school graduation ceremony in Fairfield, says ABC's Alex Stone.
An 18-year-old victim of the shooting is dead, and 3 more victims who are 11, 20, and 25 years old are injured after the shooting in the parking lot of Fairfield High School on Wednesday evening. A graduation ceremony had concluded for Sam Yetto Continuation High School. About 1,000 people attended the event. Fairfield police say there are hundreds of potential witnesses. At this time, police say there is no ongoing threat to the public, and they are following up on leads. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Karen Reed is suing the Massachusetts State Police in the town of Canton. Reed had faced 2 trials in connection with the death of her boyfriend, a Boston police officer who was found dead on a lawn after a night of drinking in a snowstorm. She was found not guilty. Her lawsuit alleges misconduct and negligence. I'm Brian Clark, ABC News.
At 6:02 downtown at the Arch, it's a sunny sky. We've got 83 degrees. Another major Olympic event is coming to St. Louis.
St. Louis has been awarded the 2028 U.S. Olympic Trials Marathon right here.
Former Olympic gold medalist and East St. Louis native Jackie Joyner-Kersee announcing the 26.2-mile race will come to St. Louis in 2028. Washington University Chancellor Dr. Andrew Martin says St. Louis is a place of history for the Olympic marathon.
The first Olympic marathon ever run on American soil started and finished on this campus.
St. Louis will also host 8 Olympic soccer matches during the 2028 Games. Sean Malone, KMOX News.
St. Louis's police board is pointing to improvement in the city's crime stats. It's the latest volley of their budget fight with the mayor. Police spokesman Mitch McCoy says crime is down 4% this year, with homicides down about a quarter. But he says that progress could quickly be lost.
If we don't make meaningful investments in public safety, you are going to start to see some of those numbers slip.
Mayor Kara Spencer and the board are battling over big raises for commanders. Spencer is concerned a law requiring matching raises for firefighters could force massive cutbacks across the rest of city government. McCoy calls her criticism political theater and says it isn't helping. The board votes on June 17th. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore has reduced the homicide backlog to 186 during his 3 years in office, while hiring on attorneys to fill the many vacant positions he inherited. Asked what challenges the office still faces, he says keeping those attorneys. While he acknowledges a higher salary helps, he says even more attorneys will reduce their caseload and make the job less stressful.
I hope that by this time next year, we will be at that 57 budgeted number, and we would be asking for additional attorneys to help to continue to get caseloads down to a manageable level.
Gore says they're also doing little things like establishing a well-being committee to help keep office morale up and burnout down. Illinois is one step closer to reining in high-speed electric bikes and scooters. A bill to create the first statewide rules for the devices now on Governor Pritzker's desk. Secretary of State Alexi Janulia says the machines have gotten far more dangerous than most people realize.
Some of the devices on the market today resemble motorcycles more than they do traditional bicycles and travel more than 50 miles an hour, yet they operate in a legal gray area with little or no regulation.
Under the bill, riders of the fastest e-bikes would need a driver's license, title, registration, and insurance, just like a car. Scooters, skateboards, and electric unicycles would be capped at 28 miles an hour and banned from sidewalks. If the governor signs, the new rules take effect in 2027. The city of St. Louis is hiring for over 100 seasonal jobs. The Department of Personnel hosting a hiring fair tomorrow at 9 a.m. at the Slate, Missouri Jobs Center.
These roles are going to be the positions that keep the city going in the summertime. So we're looking at a lot of landscape type backgrounds.
Senior Human Resources Specialist Tanya McNary Fair says there is a job for everyone.
If they are drivers, they can apply for any of the departments, but non-drivers will apply to the forestry department.
Most of the jobs require applicants to be 18 years old or older, but the lifeguard positions start as young as 15. 6:05, let's get you to Roger Brand, find out how the roads are looking.
Well, it's not bad to wrap it up for the evening, Michael. If you're traveling eastbound 70, there's still a little heavy traffic from Z to about Highway A from an earlier crash we had out that way. Eastbound 64 a little busy at the Interbelt. Westbound 64 still slow down from 364 to a point about a third of a mile west of there. Have an injury crash reported eastbound 44 at the South 270 exit, backing up with those right lanes on the Merrimack River Bridge, so pay attention there. Eastbound 64, you still have roadwork delays at 5570 briefly, and 64 from 255 to 157 backed up, and then it's slow midway up the hill toward 159. It opens up once you get to 159. I want to talk about our USPS Ground Advantage reliable route for the morning commutes. We've been getting these big backups on 5570 between 255 and 203, so take 255 to 64 westbound to get through downtown a little more quickly. I'm Roger Brand at the Michael's Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
Our very pleasant dome high pressure is now shifting off to the east. The humidity is coming back, and so is some unsettled weather. There'll be some clouds around this evening and overnight. No big deal. 66 for the overnight low. Overall, pretty nice evening on the way. Friday, partly sunny, breezy, and humid. Maybe a spot afternoon shower, but the bulk of the day is rain-free. 88 for the high. Friday night, partly cloudy, very humid. 72, quite warm. The first weekend of June, Saturday, partly sunny and humid, spot limited showers around. Again, I think most of Saturday is going to be rain-free, but we're going up to 92 degrees. Saturday night, mostly cloudy and humid, 72. And Sunday, scattered showers and some thunderstorms. One or two could go strong, but it's not a severe weather outbreak. But Sunday is a bit of an unsettled day with a high in the 80s to near 90 degrees. From the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Dave Murray on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
And at the moment, downtown at the Arch, we've got sunshine right now, 83 degrees. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Come on, let's get going now.
From KMOX Sports.
We're primed and ready. All day, baby. Man, let's go.
This is the Gray Bar Sports Open Live. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. On 104.1 FM, KMOX.
Nate Gatter with you in for Matt Pauley this evening. Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX. We're going to be talking about the Cardinals with Bernie Miklasz coming up in not even 15 minutes, about 6:20. Bernie will join us here on the show. Later on in this first hour, we will talk to Lauren Harris, who is the star of the McKendree University Bearcats softball team that made it to the National Championship Series this week. Came up short, national runner-up finish for McKendree in Division II. And in the second hour, we will talk World Cup with Bill McDermott. He'll be with us at 7:20. We'll also chat about the Energizer Park Friendly featuring Bosnia and Panama on Saturday. Final tune-up before the World Cup. A lot to get to with Bernie and with Bill as well coming up later on. We will be discussing a little bit as well about the Major League Baseball Players Association's response to the initial reported offer from Major League Baseball owners in what is a looming labor dispute. Almost certainly some kind of work stoppage, I would have to imagine. It's hard to envision a 2027 that is not in some way influenced by a labor dispute at this point. Though I will say, and I think this is interesting, we can just get into it right now before we talk to Bernie because it'd be interesting to get his thoughts on it too. I will say, I don't know that the players feel this way. I was very encouraged by that initial offer from the owners. Now, it was a bit misleading in that when they're using the dollars to set a salary cap and floor in their offer, they're not just salary dollars, they're including all of these benefits and everything else. So they're juicing up their numbers a little bit. But overall, I think it was a better first offer than I would have expected. Salary floors set at over $170 million. And even if you account for the fact that some of that is maybe smoke and mirrors, that's a pretty solid number to start with as an initial offer from ownership. It is not surprising that the players seem more interesting in just saying no thank you than engaging at this stage with some kind of counteroffer. But if we imagine that floor comes up, I don't know, $30 million, let's say, I think there's a real possibility of making that work. And the reason I think that is because this would be the rare instance where I think the players would not have a lot of public support. Generally speaking, I and a lot of other people with good reason are going to default to being pro-player, even though players generally make a great deal of money. They are still employees working for people who make and have a great deal of money more than they do. And that is especially true for the vast majority of the league that is making league minimum or within a stone's throw of it, or some kind of arbitration set number, right? The number of guys out there making 10 plus million, let alone 20 or 30 plus million on free agent deals is a small minority of the league. And even those guys are getting vastly out-earned, obviously, by ownership. So although we're playing in a very expensive sandbox, there are still owners and there are still employees. And generally speaking, the employees need the support because ownership getting even a bigger share of the pie in whatever industry is generally not worthwhile for you and me. In this instance, you and me are in a distinct third group that is not represented at the table, but whose interests are my concern because I'm in the group and because the people whose interests I would supposedly be representing while speaking on the show, not that I'm doing some kind of capital J journalism, Edward R. Murrow style, but whose interest we would theoretically be most concerned with, and that's the fans. Fans are not represented at the table here, nor will they ever be. Generally speaking, the idea has been in many ways that the players were closer to representing the fans than ownership because ownership was just in it to profit off of the whole thing. In this instance, if ownership is fighting for a salary cap, I think that is in the best interest of most fans. Not because the players make less or because it arbitrarily caps their earnings. I don't care about that. I don't resent players making more. In fact, I think they should make what they're worth, right? I understand that the player's position might be that in any salary cap league, the players who are making, whether it's a literal max contract as set by the CBA, say in the NBA, or if they're just bumping up against a de facto maximum contract because the roster has to be filled out with a bunch of other guys and it needs enough dollars under the salary cap to make that work. Either way, it is depressing wages for the highest earning players, right? Essentially, by definition, any player in the NBA making a max contract who is making the maximum allowed under the CBA is being underpaid because the market for all guys who aren't making the max, whether they're making a little bit above the minimum or the veteran minimum, or whether they're making 99% of the max, the market is setting that. If you hit 100% of the maximum, now the CBA is setting it. unless the guy's value, let's say he's making $53 million a year, unless he happens to be worth exactly $53 million a year, and this is just a coincidence, chances are he's worth $53 million and one, or somewhere a lot more than that, right? LeBron James in his prime was probably on the true open market with no salary cap in the NBA worth at least double whatever his salary was, maybe more, especially in basketball where one guy like that transforms everything for a franchise. Imagine Victor Wembanyama as a true free agent. What is he worth? What are the Knicks or Lakers if they were unlimited by a cap, by a CBA? What are they willing to pay? Right? This is like what Kevin Garnett was paid to stay in Minnesota way back when, and why ownership all of a sudden got way more serious about a cap in the NBA. So that's sort of just the appetizer of this conversation. We're going to circle back to it in the second hour because it's a longer conversation than that. And I think it's important to sort of dissect it a little bit and consider how might fans' interests align with either of these groups, players and owners, neither of whom are going into these meetings or these negotiations caring explicitly about the fans. Where does fan interest align, and with whom does it align more, and why? And we're going to talk about that during our second hour. Maybe we'll briefly discuss the pending potential labor negotiations as well with Bernie Miklasz coming up. But mostly we'll be talking about the Cardinals on this off day for them. But it's been a bit of a slide, right? Just winning just the one series in the last 2.5 weeks and just 3-3 so far on this homestand after dropping the series to the Rangers this week. 3-game sets starting tomorrow night against Cincinnati. Bernie Miklasz coming up after this on KMOX.
What a day for Community America Credit Union with the new headquarters and branch opening up in De Pere at 11780 Manchester Road. I'm Chris Ranji with the Chris and Amy Show. Been on site and wrapping things up here in just a little bit. Team Redbird making an appearance, Kevin Segrist and Matt Adams, former Cardinals making appearances as well. Had the opportunity to get those prizes from the big ATM and Cardinals tickets and the chance to throw out a first pitch. All kinds of great stuff happening here at this grand opening, and a great partnership between Community America and the Cardinals, two institutions here in the St. Louis area. And be really nice to see you before we pack up and head out. But you can come out to the Community America Credit Union new branch and headquarters, 11780 Manchester Road. It is open. It is ready to go. This event free and open to the public, so we hope you'll stop by soon.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer at a beverage manufacturing plant, he starts his day knowing every line is ready to run because Grainger delivers the industrial-grade products he needs to keep mixers, conveyors, and packaging equipment moving. With Grainger's vast selection of bearings, belts, and motors, he keeps operations running smoothly, so nothing grinds to a halt. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Father's Day? Go big for Dad. Celebrate Father's Day with 5 courses fresh from the wok fire. Enjoy a 5-course celebration experience starting at $89.99, featuring premium entrees like New York prime strip steak tataki, oolong chili and sea bass, and lobster and prawn fried rice. Bold flavors, sizzling favorites, a meal made to impress. Because Dad deserves more than just a dinner. He deserves a celebration. Celebrate Father's Day with some sizzle. Only at P.F. Chang's.
Mizzou football will be here before you know it. Join us for the 100th anniversary of Memorial Stadium with season tickets. Join the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist and get ready to lock in tickets for 2026. The home schedule is highlighted by games against Florida, Texas A&M, Texas, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. Don't wait to reserve your spot. Join the waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
In 1991, John and Cindy Morelli started Morelli Tuck Pointing. As of today, they've won just about every award possible for the tuck pointing business. The BBB Torch Award, the Next Door Neighborhood Fave Award, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. For homeowners, this is a great time to get a free inspection of your basement, your brick or stone fireplace, your garage interior, your porch, and maybe even your walkway. Indoor tuck pointing can be started now. Hi, this is Charlie Brennan. My wife Beth and I have used Morelli tuck pointing to work on 2 of our homes now over the last 25 years. We have found the Morelli bids to be fair, their crews are very polite, and they clean up after themselves. But most importantly, their work is beautiful. Family owned and operated since 1991. 314-645-1387, MorelliTuckPointing.com.
Data centers don't wait, and neither should your supply chain. From power and connectivity to racks and critical power, Graybar brings the products and the experience data centers need now. And with deep inventory and logistics expertise, we keep projects moving from first delivery to final install. With hundreds of locations and a nationwide delivery fleet, we help you bring facilities online, on time, and on budget. Yep. Graybar does that.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com.
SNL Coin. We buy gold and silver coins, silver and gold jewelry. Also buying gold-filled and silver plate. Before you sell, call SNL. 314-544-3600. 314-544-3600. SNL Coin.
Bernie Miklasz on KMOX is sponsored by Stewart's American Mortgage, home of the Bagel Loan, and by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer.
Graybar Sports Open Line continues on KMOX this evening. Nate Gatter back with you in for Matt Pauley. And Bernie Miklasz joins us now. Bernie, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Nate. You know, I tell you this every time, but I really mean it. It's always great to work with you, brother. Thank you.
You always say that before I get to say it. So then I'm always the jerk who's saying like, "Oh yeah, I like it too," and then nobody believes me. You know what I mean? Like you got to give me the chance to be first. I'm gonna stop asking you how you're doing. I'm just gonna be like, Bernie, good to work with you, and then
right.
you're gonna be like, I don't know what to do with that. Great, thanks for the hot potato, the grenade to start the segment, whatever it is.
We all get it. It's one big happy family. Go ahead.
That's right. No, speaking of grenades to lob at you to start a segment, I was just talking about the early stages, the framework that we're seeing start to take shape through the hazy fog of what this MLB Players Association, MLB owners labor dispute that's looming in the offseason might start to look like. We're going to mostly talk about baseball on the field, but first let's talk about baseball off the field. With what you've seen so far and what you're hearing, how do you think this is shaping up right now?
I think it's just what we expected. I'm taking the long view on this. It isn't that I'm not interested in it, because obviously I am, but I just expect this to be a very lengthy, extensive, drawn out, dragged out process with a lot of back and forth, many proposals, a lot of work in the media, work in the corners, making the other side, depicting the other side as evil, So I was talking about this today with Chris Ranji, and I told him, I said, it's kind of strange because I'm really definitely interested in how this is going to play out, but I also don't want to burn out on it because I know that this will be protracted and it will just be monotonous, and it's just going to go on and on and on and on. And the last thing I want to do is kind of freak out or overreact to stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, you could probably put a pin in this conversation and not read any news related to it. Circle back in December or January, and you'd pretty much be able to get the full picture. You wouldn't have missed a lot while you were away. They'll missed a lot of back and forth, but not necessarily a lot of substance you couldn't catch up on in one or two articles. So I think there's some wisdom in that. Probably not getting caught up. Don't lose any sleep over it until it's time to.
I mean, I will share this opinion with you, and feel free to slap it down. I won't be offended. That's what this is all about, free exchange. The most significant thing that's happened so far, and please, I don't want anyone to think I'm taking the owner's side. That's not it at all. But I was stunned, and I frankly didn't think it got enough attention when the owner's first proposal came out, and it was revealed that all of the clubs agreed to equally divide their local media revenue, which is huge as far as I'm concerned. When you talk about the Dodgers, what they make and what the Mets make and what the Yankees make, and I could name some other franchise, the Cubs. I remember a time where people were saying, well, Rob Manfred's asking the owners, he's asking the big revenue clubs to equally share their local revenue. And the overall sentiment I got reading pieces like in The Athletic and ESPN is like, wow, the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Cubs, they're never going to agree to that. But they did. And I don't know, I don't know that that's going to push this closer to a resolution. But I'm just saying, I think it's kind of a big deal because people like me have always said, as a general principle, look, owners, if you before you start asking the players to make sacrifices, what about your sacrifices? When are you going to do more than just the revenue sharing that exists? When are you going to get into the really serious money, like dividing up your local TV revenue and all broadcast revenue pie? Because that's actually something that does move the needle for me anyway.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. I mean, I started to talk about it during the first segment, and I'm definitely going to circle back to it during the second hour. That those two, that's something that I think we would have considered borderline impossible if we were talking about this a year ago. Like, wouldn't it be great? But it's almost impossible to think of a way. And nobody's really reported on what the offer was in exchange. I have a hard time thinking Rob Manfred went to the Dodgers and said, it would just be really good for the long-term health of the game if you guys gave up by far the biggest competitive advantage that any professional team has in the Big Four sports right now. And they said, yeah, you know what? You're right. We'll just give it up for the good of the sport, because we really want Pittsburgh and Kansas City to have an easier time spending more money, or to force those owners to spend more money, depending on your perspective. And yet here we are, where theoretically that is now on the table, as is some kind of hard floor, whatever that might be. So I think it's very exciting that as an initial, essentially unprompted offer, the owners are basically committing to at least an offer under some circumstances of equal revenue sharing on the local TV rights, and also to some sort of hard floor that, frankly, even if they're finagling the numbers and inflating them a little bit, $171 million is not an embarrassingly low number. If you had told me they're going to have a hard floor in their first offer, I would have thought it'd be like 120 or something that's a total joke.
No, I'm with you. And in fact, again, I'm sensitive to coming across as like some guy, shilling for the owners, and I'm not at all. But I'm going to kind of echo what you just said. I really did not expect equal local media revenue sharing, which is substantial, a big step. And I did not expect, to your point, I'm going to, echo that again. I'm like you. I thought they would come in with the salary floor, but I thought they'd come in with that salary floor at least for the opening proposal. The salary floor would be a lot lower than it actually turned out to be. So you're right. I was surprised by that as well.
It's one of the things that I already started to talk about and that I will continue to talk about. I am not somebody who considers myself a shill for ownership either. But you know what? If the bottom line is the way these negotiations work out, ownership interests end up more aligned with fan interest, well, I'm also not so pro player that I'm going to abandon my and fans' interest just because I feel like I've got to be on their side no matter what. I mean, if the owners have decided for the first time in recorded CBA history in any venue, any industry, they're going to be reasonable, then I'm happy to be reasonable with them. I got no problem with that.
And I do have some misgivings, and I admit to maybe not being as properly educated as I should be on some of these things, but I really wonder how the rank and file, so to speak, when they view these things through a prism about how it affects them. And I'm talking about players that are not at the highest level of the pay scale, not talking about the Kyle Tuckers and guys with $200-300 million, $400 million contracts, but the guys who we're seeing more and more of it, the guys who signed short-term deals for, 2 years, maybe 3 years, which is now considered a pretty big deal. And the guys that kind of sit around all off season waiting to get an offer, and they sign 1-year deals, which I think we see more and more and more. And I've always wondered what those guys think about, for example, the Players Association, which many people believe, fairly or unfairly, is sort of controlled by the executive board of it. It's controlled by Scott Boras, because all he cares about is his guys staying at that upper elite category of salary compensation. I've always wondered how the so-called, and this is just using a metaphor, the so-called middle class or lower, much lower on the economic scale. I've always wondered, like, well, what's in it for them? Because there's a lot of these people just sit around all winter hoping the phone will ring. And, if the owners are serious about putting in a pretty significant salary floor, that seems to me, again, on surface, that seems to me to be something that would be good for players who are beneath the highest level of compensation that get the huge deals. Do you agree or disagree, or you're not sure?
Bernie Miklasz, you are stealing my second hour material right now because I think that is the most important under-discussed element right now, which is that the Major League Players Association has more than ever a fractured union in the sense that the interests of their players are not aligned. If they were a regular business, and I'm going to talk about this more in the second hour, if they were a regular business and they tried to unionize and they went in front of the NLRB and said, well, we have Juan Soto, who has $765 million guaranteed dollars, and we also have a whole bunch of guys who are on totally non-guaranteed, essentially at-will employment agreements for the league minimum of $780,000 a year, they would get laughed out of Washington, D.C. Those guys can't be in the same union because they don't have the same interests as employees. They are not doing the same thing. Nobody's saying a guy making $780,000 a year is poor, but he does not have almost any of the same interests as a guy making $765 million guaranteed total over a 10-plus year contract. Those are just totally different things. And I think what the owners are potentially setting up to do a really good job of doing, and I'm okay with it because I think enough players will benefit and enough fans will benefit that I'm willing to sacrifice maybe the top 10% of earners among the players. What owners are setting up to do, to me, is drive a wedge between those top earning players and the Scott Boras clients of the world and your rank and file guys, even your middle class, let alone your lower middle class and league minimum guys, because their interests have so diverged.
I totally agree with what you said, and I mean this sincerely. I just wish I could explain it the way that you articulate it and the way you break it down so concisely. Because as you know, I tend to ramble. I kind of zig and zag and go in 30 different directions. But no, I mean, I could listen to you talk about this for, an hour straight because you're on top of it.
Well, really I appreciate that. You're too hard on yourself about that kind of thing. And here, as evidence of the fact that we all fall short, I said we were going to get to baseball on the field quickly, and it's been almost 12 minutes. And I'm just now going to ask you about baseball on the field.
Sure.
Cardinals homestand, 3-3 so far. Got the sort of rare off day in the middle of a homestand, and they get 3 more games against the Reds over the weekend. The offense isn't exactly waking up. That's what we talked about last time that we visited together about how it was kind of trending in the wrong direction. But they've, it hasn't been a bad homestand by any stretch. What are you seeing? How are you feeling right now?
Well, the number one thing that encourages me, and look, and I'm well aware of the underlying metrics that holler vulnerable. And I'm talking about the Cardinals pitching. But this is a group now that, if you go back to March, April, and you look at where they were ranked in a lot of categories, right? They were like, oh man, it's going to be a tough year. You look at them since like May the 1st, the Cardinals have a top 10 pitching staff in terms of ERA. And that applies to the bullpen, applies to the starters individually. And the strikeout rate for both relievers and starters have continued to climb and go up, which is another area of improvement. The Cardinals have, since May 1st, a quality start percentage of about 44%. That the last time I checked, which is a couple days ago, is like the 5th best in the majors. To me, their run prevention is now officially exceeding my expectations. That's a really good development. I don't know that it'll last all season, but it's been a positive turn for the better. The offense is still, pardon the cliche, still a work in progress. I do believe with Lars Nootbaar, with his proven ability to draw walks and work counts and work pitchers and not strike out, and he's got really good contact quality as far as hard hit rate, swing, putting the ball in play, barreling pitches, all that stuff. I can't see why he wouldn't give this offense a boost, because they're missing some of the elements that he will bring to the dance. And I think it's been, and I've made such a big fuss about it, it's been a huge, huge thing, that separation, that gap between the top four spots in the lineup and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So Nootbaar coming in deepens that, lengthens that. And I think we've seen some other guys, depending on how Ali uses them, like Velasquez, like Torres, like Fermin, that I think can, if deployed properly, also lengthen that lineup. So I do have some optimism on that front.
One of the things that Kevin Wheeler and I talked about quite a bit during rush hour, from the 5 to 6 hour, is that third base now stands out a lot as a place where there isn't a lot of solidity and there isn't necessarily a whole lot of intrigue in having a ready-made prospect at AAA who's knocking on the door, right? All of a sudden, compared to a year ago, we're having conversations about a lot of exciting young Cardinals who are either on this team and already meeting or exceeding expectations, or guys who are not far away from joining this team. Joshua Baez is the name that comes to mind first. At third base, the name that people like to mention is Blaze Jordan. I think there's been then some pushback, and Kevin talked about this during the preceding hour, that the Cardinals are not playing him at third base right now in Memphis, which is not exactly screaming a guy that they see taking over for Nolan Gorman imminently, because they'd probably be maximizing his reps at third base. So whether you agree with the Cardinals or not, I think it's fair that they're not setting up for that kind of call-up imminently. It seems like they're set up to just keep rolling Nolan Gorman out there and hope that he can get hot.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of like the last waltz for Nolan Gorman. I mean, I believe they're going to come to some kind of decision at the end of the season, one way or the other. And I think, talking to some Cardinals people that have been good sources for me, they're committing to Gorman not because that they believe that he'll suddenly get hot and the power will be restored and all that. They just want to commit once and for all and give him to the end of 162 to basically make a stand, take a stand, show us who you're going to be. And they want to do that. They want to continuously play him because they want to be absolutely sure. I can buy into that because, to your point, they don't have a third baseman lined up. And I'm glad that you and Wheels were talking about that, because I have been told with absolute certainty that there are no plans and no real desire to have Blaze Jordan play third base for the St. Louis Cardinals. Not because they dislike him. They love his plate discipline. They love the fact that he hardly ever strikes out, that he draws walks. He hits line drives. They just don't think he can play third base. And, I got to respect that. Because, like, if he could play third base at an average level or slightly above average level, well, they would be ecstatic. Like, in other words, they're not rooting for him to be poor defensively, but he's very, very, very limited defensively. Now, if you put him at first base, maybe give Burleson some breaks, and you platoon a little bit. I'm not crazy about Burleson having to hit against left-handed pitchers all the time. Jordan could give you a big boost that way as a guy that goes in there and mashes against lefties, and he could also do that from the DH spot if on days, especially when Herrera's catching.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how they ultimately have that unfold and where they're looking. Is there anybody outside of Baez? Is there another name, whether it's somebody who's, knocking on the door or maybe somebody who's still a year or two away? Is there somebody else in the Cardinals prospect pool who you think is being looked over or is not being talked about enough because we're talking either about Blaze Jordan because we're desperate for third base or because we're talking about Joshua Baez because he's been hitting so well?
I think the outfielder that they got in the Brendan Donovan trade, Ty Pete, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to embarrass myself by screwing that up. I find him really intriguing because when they made the trade, and all the reports I read said the same thing. My gosh, this guy is he's a cannon. I mean, he has got such natural power, and when the ball leaves his bat, you almost, people that see it, they're like, whoa, this guy is just loaded with power. But of course, there's a plate discipline issue. But listen, I have faith in these people like, Rob Cerfolio, Larry Day, they're hitting instructors down below. They did a wonderful job of taking Josh Baez, who was coming kind of close to washing out as a prospect, because the plate discipline problems just got worse and worse and worse and worse. They were able to fix it. Now, listen, his first year here in AAA, it went up again. The strikeouts went up again. But as I've pointed out, since like over his last 20, 21 games or so, he's cut his strikeout rate like 10% from where it was. I mean, his last 20 games or so, it's like 25%. And with the way that Joshua Baez contacts the baseball, where he is like Baseball America referred to him, or they call him, he's a launch angle monster. Like, he doesn't miss. He does not miss if he can actually get the bat on the ball. Pete is that same type of hitter. And if they could remedy him the way they did Baez, they could really have something special there with this Ty Pete. I really believe that.
Well, Bernie, I appreciate you being with us as always. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk soon.
Have a great rest of the show. I'm going to try to listen to it. I really am. But Mrs. Bernie is saying, dinner, are you coming downstairs or not? So we'll see. I might try to sneak the radio down there.
Well, yeah, don't get me or yourself in trouble with Mrs. Bernie now. I didn't ask for all that. I don't need to be getting any mean tweets from @Mrs. Bernie, whatever number she might choose to put after her name. Well, I appreciate you, Bernie. Have a good night.
Brother. Thank you. You too, man.
We'll be back with Lauren Harris from McKendree University softball, national runner-up in NCAA Division II. That's coming up next on KMOX.
Man, I love this place. I've been surfing here since I was a kid. Now, seeing my grandson out on the water, it means everything to me. Watching him and taking in the blue waves, the sea breeze, the blurry horizon.
If you have geographic atrophy, or GA, subtle changes in vision could mean it's progressing toward irreversible vision loss. Izervay is proven to slow GA progression and could help preserve your vision for longer, so you may keep seeing the world around you. Izervay, or avacincaptad pegol, is an eye injection. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may cause blood in the white of the eye, blurred vision, or a temporary increase in eye pressure. Do not drive or use machinery until vision has recovered after an eye injection or exam. Ask your retina specialist how you can slow your GA with Izervay. To learn more, call 1-855-IZERVAY or go to izervay.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
I'm with Mark Cantor of Cantor Injury Law. And Mark, why is it so important for you to be a local law firm?
Well, being local means more than just advertising here, more than just a billboard on the highway. It means showing up here. It means supporting local events and local charities.
But why is local so important?
It's important because we know the law, we know the judges, we know the roads, and we understand the community.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
You can count on Cantor. Visit CantorInjuryLaw.com.
Join the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra for an unforgettable evening of music with the legendary, incomparable Bernadette Peters, legendary Tony Award-winning star of stage and screen. With her signature charisma and unmatched artistry, this one-night-only performance with your SLSO offers an intimate concert experience with one of musical theater's most luminous voices and a must-see event for Broadway and symphony fans alike. Don't miss an evening with Bernadette Peters, Friday, June 12th at Powell Hall at the Jack C. Taylor Music Center. Tickets at slso.org.
The NBA playoffs are ongoing, and they've been a lot of fun so far, and FanDuel is giving you better payouts on same-game parlays all NBA playoffs long. With more ways to build and more value every time you play, you can stack your picks your way for every game, every matchup, every moment, from spreads to player points to threes and more. Build it all into same-game parlays and go for bigger payouts. So if you're betting same-game parlays this NBA postseason, you're going to want to do it on FanDuel, an app that is super easy to use. It is secure. It's intuitive. I've been using it for a long time and really enjoy it. More options, better payouts, all NBA playoffs long. Head to FanDuel.com/Missouri to get started. FanDuel, an official partner of the NBA. Play your game. FanDuel.com/Missouri. Must be 21 or over and present in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-day kitchen and bath. It's all about time.
Save time and money.
Do it now, don't wait till later. Call the top-notch renovator. It's about time.
3 days or less.
At 3-day kitchen and bath.
When challenges show up in our community, united we help. We help families put food on the table. We help children learn, grow, and feel safe. We help neighbors through crises and everyday challenges. Across our region, United Way brings people together, supporting local nonprofits and helping over 1 million neighbors each year. Unite with us at helpingpeople.org.
With the Chris and Amy Show, I'm Chris Ranji, hanging out at the Community America Credit Union until 7 o'clock tonight for the new headquarters and branch. It's the grand opening celebration, and it is going on right now. We want you to come out free and open to the public. Lots of Cardinals stuff that is happening here. Tickets to give away if you come out. Your opportunity to win Cardinals tickets, opportunity to win a chance to throw out the first pitch. Team Redbird with an appearance. Matt Adams and Kevin Segrest making their way out here as well. So we're having a really great time, and hopefully you will be able to come out as well. Some swag to give away. The big ATM is going to be here. So lots of reasons to stop by the new Community America Credit Union in Des Peres, 11780 Manchester Road. We are hanging out live, and we hope to see you really soon at Community America Credit Union.
Get ready for a night back with legendary hits and non-stop energy. Brian Adams is bringing the Roll with a Bunches tour to Enterprise Center Friday, July 24th.
Hello, this is Brian Adams.
Sing along to the classics as Brian Adams delivers an unforgettable night of rock anthems. Plus, special guests Pat Benatar and Neil Girardo. Brian Adams, July 24th. For more info, KMOX.com/events.
Chrysalis Biosciences in Sauget, Illinois is hiring for multiple roles. Join a fast-growing ethanol plant transforming renewable energy with competitive pay, benefits, and growth opportunities. Apply today and grow your career with Chrysalis at chrysalisbio.com.
As a fitness coach, my active psoriatic arthritis can slow me down. With Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, I'm treating my skin and joint symptoms so I can keep moving. Skyrizi, a prescription-only injection for adults, helps me move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. And for those who have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible. With Skyrizi, there's no daily dosing. It's just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement. And that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi. Visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Broadcasting from the Scott Credit Union Studio, 104.1 FM KMOX. Get inside your Redbirds in the 2026 season every Tuesday at noon. It's All Access with Cardinals manager Ollie Marmol on your voice of the Cardinals, KMOX.
Gray Bar Sports Open Line continues this Thursday evening on KMOX. Nate Gatter back with you in place of Matt Pauley tonight. And I'm joined now by Lauren Harris of the Division II National Runner-Up McKendree Bearcats softball team. Lauren, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for being with us. 4-time All-American Lauren Harris, one of only a couple of players in the history of college softball at any level in the NCAA to be a 2-time unanimous at FCA All-American. But, Lauren, this year it was as much about your success as it was about the team's success and getting to a place that McKendree has never been at the Division II level, all the way to the National Championship Series, 51 wins, 10 more than the program had ever had in a single season. What has the ride of the last few weeks been like?
Yeah, it's hard to even put into words how it's been. It's meant so much to do this for McKendree, for the faculty, for the coaching staff, and just for us girls, just to see how all the hard work and dedication we've put in and how amazing it's turned out for us to end our season here. It's been unbelievable.
On the way to the National Championship Series, you had to win 3 straight games in Chattanooga at the World Series by 1 run, over North Georgia in extra innings, over Missouri Southern on a walk-off coming from behind, and over Cal State San Marcos. In those latter 2 games, you trailed. What was the message? What was the vibe around the team in the dugout during those games when you're in tight games down to the end, even games where you're trailing and you have to execute at the end to find a way?
Honestly, I think it's just calmness. I mean, everyone knows 1 through 9, there's someone's always a threat. Someone can hit a home run. We can always get someone in scoring position. So I just think we're calm because you know the people in front of you, the people behind you, they can pick you up. So you don't feel as much pressure because you have confidence in your teammate. And I feel like that's what has led us to success all year long.
Did I hear during one of the broadcasts in the World Series that you have already decided that you're going to be sticking around McKendree and coming back to the program as an assistant coach next year? Is that true?
Yes, I'm going to be a graduate assistant next year.
Well, congratulations. That's very exciting. What is it about this program and the 4 years that you had as a player that made you say, you know what, this hasn't been enough. I need at least one more year?
I would say the coaching staff, absolutely. I mean, Coach Tarter, Coach Dow, Travis, Coach Jay, I mean, they're just all the most amazing group of coaches I've ever had. They believe in you. They treat you as a person before you're an athlete. I mean, they just put all their faith and trust in you. And I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be successful and play your hardest for a coaching staff like that. And then not only the coaching staff, I just think McKendree University as a whole, I mean, it's such a close-knit, small university. You know everyone. You know people in admin, the athletic department. You're close with your professors. So I think just having that close-knit family, it's hard to want to leave that. So I would say that's definitely the reason I've stuck around.
People talk a lot in sports and in all areas of life about leaving a legacy somewhere, leaving a place better than you found it. Obviously, you're not leaving McKendree, but you're leaving the playing roster. What does it mean to you that you and your classmates have now done something for this program that had never been done, and you're leaving it in a better place than it was when you came in?
Oh, it's amazing. I hope we continue this trend now in McKendree softball, keep it at this pace. Like I said, I'm just grateful and blessed that we were able to do it for Coach Tarter and the coaching staff.
What was the most fun moment of this entire run in the postseason, of all the games that you were winning over the last several weeks?
Just being with your best friends. I mean, college athletics, you don't get to be around a group of best friends like that ever in your life again, honestly. I mean, in work, you have coworkers and stuff, but not 18, 19, 20 girls that you consider your best friends and your sisters. So I would say that's just what we were riding on. We were riding on doing it for each other, enjoying these last moments with each other. We're never going to have that same team again. So I think just being with each other and soaking in every moment, that's what kept us going.
Lauren Harris, 4-time All-American shortstop for the national runner-up McKendree University softball team with us. Lauren, just one more before we let you go, because we get a lot of people around this area tuning in, either who are, young ladies who are working their way up in whatever sport, softball or otherwise, or parents of those young ladies who are going to go back and talk to them. If you were giving advice to whether it's a 15-year-old or a 10-year-old or whomever it is, softball or soccer or volleyball or anything else, to a young girl who wants to chase her dream of playing at the highest level she possibly can and of going to a World Series and all the things that you've done, what would you tell them to do? What's the most important thing that you've taken away from this journey that you know now that you're on the other side of it?
I would tell them to find the balance between work hard, put your nose down, do everything you can, but also realizing that it's just a game and that to have fun with it, that you won't get this opportunity forever and it will come to an end, and just to have fun and don't forget where you came from and just put your nose down and work hard.
Well, I think that hard work has paid off for you and the Bearcats this year, Lauren. Congratulations to you and to all of McKendree University softball and the whole university community on a fantastic season.
Thank you so much.
Lauren Harris, 4-time All-American, her McKendree softball Bearcats went all the way to the NCAA Division II World Series and to the championship finals. Came up just a couple of wins short, but finished national runner-up, the highest finish for McKendree in the Division II era. 51 wins this year for the Bearcats, 10 more than they had ever had in a single season in program history. And for what it's worth, mentioned this with Gracie Barra last week on this show. Maryville on the western side of the Mississippi River, also Division II, also a GLVC school, had their women's lacrosse program go all the way to the national championship game and finish national runner-up. So very good spring for GLVC women's athletics here in the St. Louis area. That kind of thing is really, really fun for me, and I love when we get a chance to shine the spotlight on that and some of sports maybe as we remember them and we like to think of them, especially because during the second hour, we're going to talk about sports in a very different way. The greed that surrounds the FIFA World Cup and the back-and-forth tug-of-war that is MLBPA and MLB owner negotiations. That's a bit of a different side of sports in the second hour after this.
You know, here in St. Louis, word of mouth still matters, and I'm pretty careful about who I recommend, especially when it comes to something as personal as estate planning. I'm Tom Ackerman. My family has been working with the Lederman Law Firm for over 20 years now, and the reason is simple. They don't just create documents and send you on your way. They help make sure your plan works. Because let's be honest, life changes. Family needs and circumstances change. Laws change. But most estate plans don't change over time as needs, circumstances, and laws change. They're outdated, sitting in a drawer. People assume they're fine, and their plan will work when they need it to work. At the Lederman Law Firm, it's not a one-time transaction. It's an ongoing process. They build a plan to protect your family and your assets, and then for a fixed annual fee, they help keep it up to date as both your life and assets change. Check out the Lederman Law Firm at LedermanLaw.com or give them a call at 314-514-9100. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
Let me tell you something about insurance. When you sign your insurance policy, for some brokers, that's the finish line. Handshake, commission, done. Then you may not hear from them again until it's time for renewal. But your business runs all year, so do the gaps and the risk. So go to Supersure.com. If your company has more than 25 employees, whether you're the owner, CFO, or HR manager, it can be too complex to just go buy a policy online. Supersure is the super agency built for you, licensed in every state for your business insurance and employee benefits, all with year-round support for you and your team. At Supersure.com, you can access tools like fine print facts. It'll translate your current policy into plain English so you see what's covered and what's not. Plus a business value calculator so you can estimate what your business is worth so you know what actually needs protecting. Go to Supersure.com. One super agency, one powerful platform, all your policies in one place. Supersure.com. That's Supersure.com. Paid for by Supersure Insurance Agency, LLC, a licensed insurance agency.
Time now for today's Spotlight on Tech, sponsored by Audient Hearing.
Google has launched a new screenless fitness tracker powered by artificial intelligence. The Fitbit Air is Google's smallest tracker yet, packing high-fidelity sensor technology in a tiny pebble that tracks heart rate and variability, blood oxygen levels, sleep stages, and other health metrics. Google says the Fitbit Air has up to a week of battery life and takes just 5 minutes to charge for a full day. I'm Jason Brooks.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, you're not alone. Most importantly, you don't have to live with it. Paramount Men's Medical Center restores men's sex lives in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, even when Viagra and Cialis don't work. Here's Dr. Simovitz, specialist in men's health.
Paramount Men's Medical Center's painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. 98% of patients see instant results right in the office.
Men are now lasting longer than they ever imagined. And the best part, at Paramount Men's Medical Center, your consultation and first treatment are free. Qualified patients even get their testosterone checked free. Call 314-720-8444. 314-720-8444. Take control of your sex life. Call now. 314-720-8444.
Let me tell you one of the reasons I think we became the largest injury firm in the world, and it's not even close. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. My wife and I had a plan early on. In our firm, our lawyers only work on certain types of cases. Our products liability and dangerous drug lawyers only work on those cases. Same for car crashes, workers' compensation, medical malpractice, and insurance disputes. Our thinking is for these lawyers to focus on one area of the law and live it and breathe it. Power comes from knowledge. Many lawyers do everything, jack of all trades. Not us. And we don't charge an hourly rate. You only pay us if we win. If you want to hire us, it's easy. Dial Pound Law on your cell phone, pound 529, or visit forthepeople.com on your phone or computer from the comfort of your own home. Let us get to work for you. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com. Injured? Dial Pound Law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
News, talk, cards. KMOX AM St. Louis. KMOX FM Hazelwood. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. President Trump now accusing 4 GOP congressmen of grandstanding, calling their actions unpatriotic after they helped pass a war powers resolution on Iran. And he said his administration's original plan for U.S. troops to seize Iran's enriched uranium, but now that's changed.
We could get it right now. I don't think they could stop us if we wanted, but there's no reason to. It's entombed. You use a good word. It's entombed. We also have cameras on it through Space Force.
Hezbollah rejecting a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. They want Israeli troops occupying southern Lebanon to pull out first. President Trump says his administration's using hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade coal-burning power plants, repurposing funding Congress set aside for renewable energy projects. Sources telling ABC News President Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, is expected to plead guilty to mishandling classified documents in a deal that would allow him to avoid prison time. This is ABC News. Police in Northern California are asking for information after a shooting in the parking lot of a high school graduation ceremony. It happened in Fairfield between San Francisco and Sacramento.
An 18-year-old victim of the shooting is dead, and 3 more victims who are 11, 20, and 25 years old are injured after the shooting in the parking lot of Fairfield High School on Wednesday evening. A graduation ceremony had concluded for Sam Yetto Continuation High School. About 1,000 people attended the event. Fairfield police say there are hundreds of potential witnesses. At this time, police say there is no ongoing threat to the public, and they are following up on leads. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Researchers at the artificial intelligence company Anthropic are advising AI development be able to slow down or pause AI when it needs to. In a post on the company's blog, Anthropic says a pause would allow society and other research to catch up and keep up with AI technology. Dave Packer, ABC News.
At 7:02, we've got some sun out there. It's 81 degrees downtown at the Arch. St. Louis will now be hosting multiple Olympics events in 2028.
St. Louis will be hosting the U.S. Olympic trials for the marathon in March of 2028 ahead of the Summer Games. This marks the second of possibly 3 Olympic events the city will host in 2028, according to St. Louis Sports Commission President Mark Schreiber.
We will have the U.S. Olympic marathon trials, likely the Olympic torch relay. Not a done deal yet, but the odds are good, and the previously announced Olympic soccer matches.
According to Washington University Chancellor Andrew Martin, the first ever Olympic marathon race in the United States began and ended on their campus in St. Louis. Sean Malone, KMOX News.
There's a major shakeup at the $500 million Oasis at Lakeport project at the Lake of the Ozarks. The development team says it's removing St. Louis developer Jeff Tegethoff after his company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy Monday. The group says it had already pulled Tegethoff from managing the project's legal entities and is well capitalized to keep building. The amusement park, parking garage, and boat slips are still on track to open in spring of 2027. St. Louis police are now looking into a reported dog attack on local restaurateur Steve Ewing and his wife from Tuesday evening near Tower Grove Park. The department says the call never reached them. The family went to the park's private security instead, and word did not surface until it hit the news. Spokesman Mitch McCoy.
I can tell you that after hearing of this, we sent a police officer to that area to speak with the family and have learned and have helped make sure that a report is filed with animal control. And animal control, as my understanding, is working on completing that paperwork.
Also, police announced a 27-year-old's arrest in a string of smashed storefront windows on South Grand. One business is staring at some $8,000 in damage. And an update on overnight car break-ins that wound up with 7 people in custody, including a 19-year-old found with a gun. The push to regulate electric bikes and scooters in Illinois is now real life for Secretary of State Alexei Janulius. He says he ran into the danger himself this week while he was on a morning walk along the Chicago lakefront.
I'm not one of those old guys that complains about things, but I saw 2 people that were literally on motorcycles. They were motorcycles on the bike path, which is dangerous for everyone and not what our bike paths were intended for.
It's part of why Janulius is backing the bill that cleared the legislature and sits on the governor's desk. It would require licenses and insurance for the fastest e-bikes, would cap scooters and skateboards at 28 miles an hour, and set an age of 16 or up to ride any electric micromobility device. It would take effect in 2027. Some clouds overnight, low 66 degrees. For tomorrow, sunshine, more humid, and some limited afternoon showers and thunder showers with a high of 88 degrees. Right now, downtown at the Arch, we've still got sun. It's 81. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Nate Gatter in for Matt Pauley on this Thursday evening as Gray Bar Sports Open Line continues. If you missed anything in our first hour, you can go back and hear it in podcast form on the free Odyssey app, AUDACY. We visited with Bernie Miklasz for quite a while, talking about the Major League Baseball looming labor dispute coming in the offseason, which we'll talk about a little bit more in this second hour, not because it is newsworthy in the sense that it's imminent, right? We're not going to get some kind of mid-season work stoppage that threatens the World Series like we did in the 90s, though, I mean, certainly next season, at the very least the beginning of next season, could be in some doubt, potentially, depending on how this unfolds. But instead, what I think makes it newsworthy is that initial offer from the owners and how surprising so many of the things were in it. We also talked to Bernie about the Cardinals' form and where they are coming into this off day, now 2/3 of the way through this lengthy homestand. They'll have a 3-game series starting tomorrow night with the Reds. Our pregame will get underway here on KMOX and across the Cardinals radio network, powered by Gray Bar at 6:20. And then a 7:15 first pitch. Leahy for the Cardinals, Singer for the Reds in the series opener tomorrow night at Busch. We also chatted with Lauren Harris of the McKendree University Bearcats softball team, national runner-up in Division II. Lauren Harris, an incredible career. Worth it. If you got any interest in softball, and a lot of people are developing it, at least at the Division I level, look up some of her numbers and what she did. 4-time All-American, 2-time unanimous first-team All-American by the NFCA, the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association. Only Rachel Garcia of UCLA, one of the most famous softball players of all time, has ever done that before Lauren Harris, 2-time first-team unanimous first-team All-American. And you can hear that interview as well going back to our first hour. During this second hour, we're going to be chatting with Bill McDermott, Mr. Soccer here in St. Louis, in just about 13 minutes and discussing any number of things. The World Cup set to get underway in just about a week now. We'll talk about the U.S. men's national team, who will start their World Cup a week from tomorrow night against Paraguay out on the West Coast. They'll play all 3 of their group games against Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey on the West Coast. And so a couple of those will be late kickoff times. Next Friday, it's going to be an 8 o'clock kickoff in the opener against Paraguay. And then their final game in the group stage, which will be 3 weeks from tonight, the 25th of June against Turkey, will be a 9 o'clock Central Time kickoff. In between, they'll play at 2 on Friday afternoon, the 19th of June, against Australia. So really not any ideal times. 8 o'clock is the best of the bunch probably for TV viewing here in St. Louis, because that 2 o'clock Friday game on the 19th will be during the workday, though that is Juneteenth, so a decent number of people potentially will have that day off. Certainly, the federal employees will have that day off. USA will be finishing out their tune-ups for the World Cup on Saturday afternoon at Soldier Field in Chicago. They'll be playing Germany, one of the favorites to win the World Cup. According to the betting odds, Germany is somewhere in that 7 or 8 range, most likely to win, trailing the favorites, Spain and France. Then the sort of second group of teams, England, Portugal, Brazil, and Argentina, before you get to Germany, then the Netherlands, and then it drops off considerably after the Dutch in terms of likelihood of anybody outside the top 8 winning. Really, the likelihood of anybody outside the top 6 winning gets a lot longer, and Germany is just barely on the wrong side of that. On DraftKings, USA have plus 6,000 odds to win the tournament, which puts them as the 13th best team in the field, according to those odds, which is not that bad, but plus 6,000 is still awfully unlikely to win the tournament. But you'd have to think, for the U.S., the absolute minimum would be get out of the group, especially because the majority of the field is going to get out of the group. I think it's very likely they do that. Then the goal, I think the real minimum goal to be satisfied would be to win a game in the group and get to the round of 16. And then the reach goal to me would be to get to the quarterfinals. Anything after that would probably be gravy. And I think those odds say that's about right? If you have the 13th best odds, then you should more or less expect, not that it'll be easy, but your goal, your expectation, maybe expectation's a better word for it, should be to get to that round of 16. And then it's going to be a bit of a reach to make it to the quarterfinals. But we'll talk to Bill McDermott as well about what he thinks. Because, look, for a while, the energy around this team was not good. The vibes were not good. I think there were some real questions, and there are some real questions about Maurizio Pochettino, the manager of this team, and the direction they were going. There have been all of a sudden very public links between him and AC Milan in Italy, kind of making it seem like he was planning his escape already, that he was getting his escape vessel ready. And, he pushed back against that. And then he got a good performance against Senegal last weekend in Charlotte. The U.S. went out to an early 2-0 lead, looked dominant doing it, then surrendered that lead, back-to-back Senegalese goals, and then scored in the second half. Folarin Balogun did to make it a 3-2 U.S. lead and ultimately a 3-2 U.S. win. Pretty good performance, certainly better than what the U.S. had been working with in their couple of games in the international window in March when they lost to Belgium and Portugal by a combined scoreline of 7-2. But before that, they had won 3 in a row, including dominating Uruguay back in November. So, look, I think it's going to be a relatively small sample size, same as any World Cup, and things can happen. But I think this is a manageable group. I wouldn't say an easy one, but a manageable group. I think the U.S. should expect to be in the top 2 in the group and progress and win at least one game, hopefully 2, in the knockout round. But you never know. If they can establish a little bit of momentum, let's say you do get to the round of 16. By that point, they've been okay or maybe even good in the group stage and they've won a knockout game. There's going to be a lot of energy building around them by that point. I think some of the way that the World Cup has been marketed in this country, some of the headlines that it's gotten, some of the very extreme price gouging FIFA has done, has in turn muted a little bit of the anticipation compared to where I would have expected it to be. Now, obviously, we don't live in a city here in St. Louis where the World Cup is coming, right? So maybe if we were in Kansas City, it might be a different vibe where they're going to host a number of World Cup games. Certainly, if we were in a place like Los Angeles or Seattle where they know that they're hosting the U.S. at least once, maybe those things would be different. We'll see what the atmosphere is, say, when St. Louis is set up to host some World Cup, or rather some Olympic soccer matches, I should say, in 2028, both on the men's and women's side. We know that's going to happen, that Energizer Park will be an Olympic soccer host. So maybe it's muted in part because of that, but I think a big piece of it has been FIFA mismanaging everything about this, that it feels like FIFA saying, finally, we've made it to the U.S., a place where fools and their money are more easily parted. And at the very least, where people don't openly revolt if we decide that this event is going to be only for people who can afford to drop $1,500, $2,000 a ticket, whatever. I mean, that's obviously it's despicable. And I think it's turned a number of people off to the whole thing. And I can understand that. So I think it feels worse to be publicly and aggressively excited about it than it should, because so much of the lead up has been marred by all these negative headlines and all of the money grabbing that they're perpetually doing, and that they feel this country allows them the opportunity to do. And, hopefully that's not going to work out for them as well as they think it will. At the very least, once the games start. I mean, I think it's kind of, in some ways, it's funny because the sports are so opposite culturally, but in some ways, the conversation here sort of mirrors the conversation around college football and college sports collectively, which is that we spend all of our time talking about everything about the sport that's being ruined. And then the sport starts and we're like, this is still pretty fun. And I think that's maybe where we are a little bit with this, is that the World Cup's going to kick off. I mean, I can tell you that when the ball's in play, U.S. and Paraguay in almost exactly 8 days from now, 8 days plus 47 minutes or whatever it is, I am not going to be thinking about how FIFA has tried to gouge us. I'm going to be thinking about the soccer. And that, in some ways, that's what they're betting on, unfortunately, right? That is, we could do all of this, and then ultimately these people are so addicted to the product that we have that they're still going to watch. They're still going to, pay what the price. Some people are still going to pay the prices, whatever. So I, in that sense, I'm falling into the trap, but I am who I am. And so that's how it's going to go. But I am still excited about it. And I think if they can get a couple of good results early and get some of that momentum behind them, this can go in a really good direction. Now, by the same token, if they have poor results early, I think the pressure is going to start to build on them very, very, very quickly, even more so because they're at home. And, so I hope they can get off to a good start, because I think that could propel them a long way, and a poor start could really do a lot to bring them down as well. We'll talk to Bill McDermott about that, and also about the Bosnia-Panama game, the final tune-up for those teams before the World Cup on Saturday afternoon here in St. Louis at Energizer Park. All of that is coming up here on Gray Bar Sports Open Line on the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Save big money in outdoor storage now at Menards. It's the perfect time to get organized and expand your backyard storage space. Arrow Storage products have you covered with durable, weather-resistant steel sheds that offer long-lasting protection, and they look good for years to come. They're pre-cut and pre-drilled for faster assembly to save you time. Plus, don't forget to check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
America is turning 250 this year, and Circa Sports is celebrating by offering all users in Missouri $250. For everyone in Missouri, all you have to do is deposit $250 on your Circa Sports app, then play through that deposit. Once you do, Circa Sports will reward you with $250 right in your account. This is available for everyone in Missouri, new and existing users. Celebrate 250 years and find out more at circasports.com today. Must be 21 or older and in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is the story of the one who keeps multiple buildings running smoothly day after day. Plumbing that flows, HVAC that hums, cleaning supplies that keep surfaces sparkling. That's why she counts on Grainger. With easy reordering online and 24/7 support, Grainger helps her keep the products she needs on hand. So shelves stay stocked and buildings stay ready. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right? It doesn't clean as well.
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Oh, let me make an announcement.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Stop paying for watered-down detergents. Pay for clean. If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Pods. Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Ready for instant curb appeal that comes with a 25-year transferable warranty? Call Rhino Shield today. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, aluminum, steel, cedar, and more. Over the past 20 years, we've done thousands of homes, businesses, churches, schools, condos, parking garages, large metal buildings, and strip malls, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks. We do flat and sloped metal roofs to extend their lives too. Proud to be veteran-owned and manufactured in the good old USA, so we're tariff-free. We're exceeding expectations every day. Evaluations are free. A+ rated with the BBB and a lot of 5-star Google reviews. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
For men over 50, staying healthy shouldn't feel complicated. Neovitin Men's 50 Plus is a doctor-formulated daily multivitamin designed to support everyday wellness with just 2 tablets a day. You can subscribe at neovitin.com for convenient monthly delivery right to your door, or find Neovitin Men's 50 Plus at your local Deerbirds or Schnucks. All Neovitin vitamins are manufactured in a GMP-certified facility in the USA and are designed for real, everyday routines. Make nutrition easy with Neovitin Men's 50 Plus.
The road to the United Bowl starts here. Your St. Louis Battlehawks have clinched the playoffs and earned Dome Field advantage. Playoff football is coming back to St. Louis, Sunday, June 7th at 5 p.m. Get your tickets now at UFLBattlehawks.com. United, we battle.
Think buying a home is out of reach? Think again. Scott Credit Union has down payment options as low as 0 money down. Your new home could be closer than you think. Visit scu.org today. Equal housing lender, NMLS 415767. Terms and conditions apply.
Built on a century. Focused on today. The voice of St. Louis. KMOX.
Mr. Soccer Bill McDermott is with us as we continue on Gray Bar Sports Open Line this evening. Nate Gatter back with you in for Matt Pauley. Bill, how you doing with the World Cup right around the corner?
I'm fine, Nate. It's getting closer, the summer of soccer. I mean, everything's happening. You talk about a brand new tournament. 48 teams, 104 games are playing all over the United States. NFL football venues, a goodly portion of which had to put grass down to accommodate FIFA's rulings. 3 tournaments, 3 places, I should say, 3 venues in Mexico, 2 in Canada. So this truly is a tournament in North America.
Mexico will kick off the tournament a week from today at 2 o'clock Central Time, Thursday afternoon kickoff next week. And then Canada will be the second host country to get going Friday afternoon before the U.S. begin in prime time on Friday. And they'll do that against Bosnia. So Bosnia will have a big audience, you would think, for that Friday afternoon game. And they will play their last tune-up here in St. Louis against Panama at Energizer Park, 2 o'clock this Saturday afternoon. Obviously, there's always excitement around any Bosnian team coming here to play in St. Louis, but especially one that will be playing only 6 days before their 2026 World Cup debut. What are you anticipating from that game?
Well, I anticipate seeing Bosnia's real first 11 and who they're going to put in their first 11 in their very first game against Canada, as you mentioned, Nate, led by Edin Dzeko. Now, this will be his 5th time, Nate, playing soccer in St. Louis. Remember when all the hubbub started with the games at Busch Stadium way back in 2013, 48,263, sold out in a half hour, 45 minutes, hour, whatever your pleasure. There were all kinds of reports. But Dzeko, like Ronaldo, like Messi, like Guillermo Ochoa, in their 40s, early 40s. Messi will turn 39 during the tournament. He still is the guy for Bosnia-Herzegovina. He did so well for them in their playoffs, getting to this stage of the tournament, qualifying actually for Bosnia-Herzegovina. They're not the same team who made it into their very first World Cup in 2014. But nonetheless, they have a really, really nice combination of youth and experienced players. One player in particular, he's the left back. He really gets up and down and contributes to the offense as well as doing his defensive job. He wears number 5 at Sad Kolasinac. The reason I bring him up is that his very first cap, his first international appearance for Bosnia-Herzegovina was back in November of 2013 when Bosnia-Herzegovina plays Argentina at Busch Stadium. So there's a real identity with this Bosnian team, Nate, in particular, because this is if you will, a home away from home. Of all the places in the world, other than in Sarajevo, the largest collection of Bosnian people is in the city of St. Louis to the tune of 50, 60, 70,000. It continues to grow on a regular basis.
That is, yeah, it's pretty cool. It should be an excellent atmosphere for Bosnia and for Panama coming up at Energizer Park on Saturday afternoon. And obviously, we expect those World Cup atmospheres to generally be tremendous as well. Let's turn our attention to the U.S., Bill, because they will be opening against Paraguay a week from tomorrow. Then Australia and Turkey round out the group. You would have to feel pretty good about their chances of advancing out of the group, not because it's especially weak, but just because the majority of the field is going to advance from the group stage into the knockouts. I was talking before the break about sort of, I always think in terms of 3 goals, if you will, and I need to come up with better different names for them. But one is sort of the minimum below this bar would be rioting in the streets, right? Then there's a reasonable expectation, the middle bar, that you kind of set as this is where we're really most likely to be. We want to at least get there. And then there's the higher bar of this is kind of the aspirational goal. Where would you set those for the U.S.?
I think probably the second one you were referring to, Nate. I don't think this team is as talented. It's awfully talented, but not as talented as the 2002 team that played against Germany, made it all the way to the quarterfinals. But that team was graced with the presence of Brian McBride, and that's what the difference is, I think, for this particular team. Nonetheless, I think they're going to be picked to finish, and I think logically so, in the top 2 in their particular grouping. So consequently, they would get a favorable round of 32 matchup, most probably. But then you get into the round of 16, and then you're going to run into a top 10 caliber team in that round of 16. But I think the United States, because they have the added incentive of playing at home, that really helps a team. And they have a combination of some youth, but perhaps even more so than in years past, a more experienced group. And you saw those players, those more experienced players, just this past weekend in the game against Senegal. The first 2 goals they scored, Nate, those were goals anywhere in the world against any team. So perhaps they have risen to the occasion. Tim Ream has talked about the fact that Mauricio Pochettino does many things, but does one thing in particular well, and that is mold a team together. This is our team. We are not 26 individuals. He's molded this into a solid overall unit and overall team. And I think they're showing that in their recent games, in particular the one I just referenced, the game against Senegal this past weekend.
You know, you mentioned Tim Ream, captain, as was recently announced, of this U.S. men's national team. And that extends, if I'm not mistaken, the greatest St. Louis fun fact of all, which is that there's been a St. Louis Billiken on at every single FIFA World Cup there's ever been. Is that right? That we've had some St. Louis representation there all the time?
Dating back, well, I'll start with 1990, Nate, not actually as St. Louis University player, but from SIU Edwardsville was Steve Tritchu in that 1990 World Cup. But then, starting in 1994, Mike Sorber. Starting in 1998, 02, and 06, Brian McBride. In 2014, Brad Davis, and then Vedad Ibisevic. Getting back to our Bosnian theme, he is an icon in Bosnian soccer because he scored the goal that got Bosnia into their first World Cup. And then in Brazil, he scored Bosnia's first goal in a World Cup. And then the 5th player from St. Louis University is Tim Ream, who played the last World Cup in Qatar and is now the captain for this team. But I think he is logically in the right place at the right time. I think he has said this will be his last World Cup. But, Nate, every team in the world wants and needs a left-footed center back. You will not get a better ball out of the backfield to begin your attack than off the left foot of Tim Ream going forward, leading that attack.
Because there have been some U.S. fans who are wary of Tim Ream being a starter on this team, maybe in part just because of his age. Are there any positions on the field, especially if you would say Tim Ream is not one of those guys with a left-footed center back being so important, are there any positions other than that on the field that you look at with any kind of significant consternation going into the World Cup?
I really don't think so, Nate, and I'm not trying to be evasive or I'm not trying to sidestep your question. I think they are awfully solid. McKinney, Tyler Adams, I really like Serginho Dest, wide on the right. I really like Anthony Robinson, wide on the left. There's a rumor he's being looked at by very prominent clubs in England to the tune of perhaps Liverpool and Manchester United. Pulisic, Tim Weah, and Fullerene Balogun. Now, I mentioned Brian McBride a moment ago simply because I don't think the United States has had a player like Brian McBride, the total package as a striker, since his playing days. Now, all the players have improved. They are in top form, Fullerene Balogun in particular. But Pepe, this past weekend against Senegal, he helped both create both goals for the United States. So Ricardo Pepe, he may indeed be ready to step into that first 11 role. Now, with reference to Tim Ream, no, I don't think Tim Ream's going to be able to play 90 minutes in every game for the United States, in particular if they go 3, 4, 5, 6 games. I don't think he'll be able to play 90 minutes in every game. And Mauricio Pochettino even joked about that. He said, listen, just because I named you captain doesn't mean that you're going to be in the first 11 in every game. So that may indeed be accurate. But I think they are awfully solid. Now, one thing that I have to look out for are the injuries to a couple players, in particular Chris Richards alongside of Tim Ream at center back. They were definitely, the United States was definitely planning on having him in the first 11. So we'll have to see about that. But the United States is not alone in that overall scenario because there are so many players, gifted players, world-class players around the world that may not be suitable to play in maybe their first or second games. At the top of the list, Lamine Yamal for Spain. Now, in particular, we talk about Panama because they're playing Bosnia-Herzegovina, Nate. They have not had Godoy or Carrasquilla, two players it is mandatory that Panama has to play and be successful in their play in the World Cup. They have not played in the last two friendlies against Brazil and then most recently last night against Dominican Republic. So there's still some players who are doubtful to play in that first game for their respective countries.
You mentioned Chris Richards has been playing very well for Crystal Palace, who, of course, won a trophy this year. And but he had that ankle injury, essentially a bad sprain, I think. You kind of have to read between the lines sometimes. He has been in training for the U.S. this week, but mostly or exclusively training on his own, it seems. So even if he is healthy enough to play come next week or later in the group stage, you would think it's not totally fair for the U.S. to count on him to be in absolute top form because he'll probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of a month since he was last in real game action.
Exactly right. And you have to be in top form, not only when you're representing your country, obviously, but when you get into the World Cup. Some teams turn into different teams just because they have the opportunity and the privilege of now getting into the World Cup. They're at a dramatically different level, again, because of their pride and their nationalism. They turn into different people, and perhaps that will happen against the Paraguay team. South American teams have always fared well in this type of weather that will be upcoming in this World Cup, during the World Cup in United States, Mexico, and Canada, because it's going to be hot at some of these venues. As a matter of fact, at a goodly number of the venues. So the South Americans may have a little bit of distinct advantage, as a matter of fact, in those particular games.
Bill, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks a lot.
Anytime, Nate. Talk to you soon.
Mr. Soccer, Bill McDermott with us previewing the World Cup, and the U.S. will be getting underway against Paraguay a week from tomorrow, and Bosnia and Panama at Energizer Park in their respective final tune-ups before the main event coming up here in St. Louis on Saturday afternoon. Step aside. When we come back, we'll revisit that conversation from the first hour about the Major League Baseball labor discussions between the Players Association and the owners looming in the offseason and what we learn from the opening salvo between those two sides exchanged in recent weeks. That's coming up after this on KMOX.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer at a beverage manufacturing plant, he starts his day knowing every line is ready to run because Grainger delivers the industrial-grade products he needs to keep mixers, conveyors, and packaging equipment moving. With Grainger's vast selection of bearings, belts, and motors, he keeps operations running smoothly, so nothing grinds to a halt. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu. My Computer Career, an elite CompTIA certification partner.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Hey guys, Kevin Wheeler here. I want to tell you about Burn Balance Complex, which is available at supplement superstores. And look, I've been using Burn Balance Complex since the week that it was released, and you notice the benefits really soon after you get started. Look, what Burn Balance Complex is a complete metabolism system. It is not just a fat burner. It works with your body, not against you, right? It's not bringing a lot of the negativity that other supplements bring. It's nothing but the good stuff. It's a natural weight loss option for people that just don't want prescriptions or injections. I get that. I understand it. And to me, Burn Balance Complex is the best thing I've used when it comes to natural weight loss. Also helps with reducing stress and lowering cortisol levels. You're going to get appetite and cravings control along with that, plus all-day focused energy with no jitters, which is the best part. Look, it's not magic. You got to put in the work. Burn Balance Complex makes putting in the work that much easier. So get out to supplement superstores. Tell them Kevin Wheeler sent you, and they'll knock 30% off for you right there on the spot. And you can find your location at supplementsuperstores.com.
Right now, inflation is squeezing budgets, and global events can shake up the markets overnight. If you're close to retirement, you don't get unlimited do-overs, so this is not the time to just hope it works out. That's why Steve Auld and the team at the All Financial Group are hosting an upcoming educational seminar called Retirement Simplified, June 16th at the All Financial Group office. You'll learn how rising costs could drain your spending power, how political and economic headlines may impact your returns, and whether your retirement strategy is truly stress-tested for today's economy. This event is complimentary, and you must reserve your seat today. 636-230-8824. You can also get more details online at yourmoneymattersstl.com.
Investment advisory products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, or registered investment advisor. Neither the firm nor its agents or representatives may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any purchasing decisions. The All Financial Group is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the U.S. government or any other government agency.
In 1991, John and Cindy Morelli started Morelli Tuck Pointing. As of today, they've won just about every award possible for the tuck pointing business. The BBB Torch Award, the Next Door Neighborhood Fave Award, and an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau. For homeowners, this is a great time to get a free inspection of your basement, your brick or stone fireplace, your garage interior, your porch, and maybe even your walkway. Indoor tuck pointing can be started now. Hi, this is Charlie Brennan. My wife Beth and I have used Morelli Tuck Pointing to work on 2 of our homes now over the last 25 years. We have found the Morelli bids to be fair, their crews are very polite, and they clean up after themselves. But most importantly, their work is beautiful. Family owned and operated since 1991. 314-645-1387, MorelliTuckPointing.com.
America is turning 250 this year, and Circa Sports is celebrating by offering all users in Missouri $250. For everyone in Missouri, all you have to do is deposit $250 on your Circa Sports app, then play through that deposit. Once you do, Circa Sports will reward you with $250 right in your account. This is available for everyone in Missouri, new and existing users. Celebrate 250 years and find out more at circasports.com today. Must be 21 or older and in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Get inside your Redbirds in the 2026 season every Tuesday at noon. It's All Access with Cardinals manager Ollie Marmol on your voice of the Cardinals, KMOX.
Gray Bar Sports Open Line continues on this Thursday evening. If you want to be part of the conversation as we're talking about potential Major League Baseball labor dispute coming at the end of this season, you can join us at 314-436-7900. That's 314-436-7900. You can also use the talkback feature on that free Odyssey app, AUDACY, where you can listen to every Cardinals and St. Louis City game for free. You can hear all of our content here on KMOX, including in podcast form. If you missed any of our interviews, including with Bernie Miklasz, Bill McDermott, or Lauren Harris so far on the show, discussing Cardinals, discussing U.S. men's national team in the World Cup coming up, Bosnia and Panama playing over at Energizer Park on Saturday in a final friendly before the World Cup, or Lauren Harris talking about McHenry University softball run to the World Series and an eventual Division II national runner-up finish. All of those available on that free Odyssey app. You can also leave a comment for us on any of our streams. By the way, we got a comment earlier on one of our streaming platforms around your various social media links from a listener asking if I would ask Bernie at the time that he was on with us if Bill DeWitt is pro salary cap or not. The reason I didn't ask Bernie is that it's not necessarily his job to know that, because he's not, reporting on the Cardinals in the same way that he once was, with the same kind of access that he once had. He's doing a little more analysis now. And also for the second reason, which is that I don't know. I've never spoken to Bill DeWitt in my entire life. I think it's a pretty safe bet that he is pro salary cap for the reasons that all the owners are, and certainly this iteration. Because, again, what's so significant about this first offer from the owners is that they proposed a salary cap, yes, but that's not surprising. Every owner of every business anywhere would love a salary cap that limits their expenses. What's more interesting is that they proposed, I won't necessarily say a good salary floor. The players have reasons to think that it is too low, but a less than terrible salary floor, certainly a significantly better one than I would have expected in an initial offer. And the reason they were able to do it, as Bernie mentioned with us during the first hour, I think the most interesting tidbit of all, and one that has not been discussed as much as it probably should, is because they were offering centralization of all local television revenue. Well, all television revenue, period, but all the national television revenue is already centralized because that goes straight to the league. What this means is the Los Angeles Dodgers and their vastly larger local television revenues than any other teams in baseball would have to put that into a collective pool to be distributed equally, or as MLB sees fit, in order to equalize everything. The same would apply to, say, the Yankees or to the Cubs, who own Marquee, the channel on which their games air. I have no idea how they're pulling that off, and I'm a little surprised we haven't seen that in the reporting, considering, this proposal has now been out there publicly for a week and change, going back to last week when it was initially reported. I'm surprised we haven't gotten more details. And I understand maybe the average fan doesn't particularly care about how the sausage is made here. They just want to know how it's going to taste at the end. But I'm interested to know, because that's the Dodgers giving up a huge competitive advantage. It's the Cubs giving up something that is sort of their property, right? I mean, they put all this money into creating this network. They're fronting the costs. It doesn't seem necessarily like it's in their interest to give that up. Now, I do think in the long term, it's in the best interest of the sport and probably of every individual franchise and its owner to want more parity and at least more equality of opportunity that comes from greater equalization of revenues and of spending. But in the short term, it's certainly not true, right? Obviously, the Dodgers would be hurt by this because they are enjoying this significant advantage. And that would be true of some other teams. The Dodgers are the easiest example because of just how much they spend and because of just how big their local TV revenue advantage is. But there are some other considerations here that I think are really interesting. The first one is, why should fans want this? Because there are some people, especially in media, including here. For example, Kevin Wheeler and I could have tried to have this conversation between 5 and 6 p.m., and you would have turned off your radio because it would have been unproductive, because we would have been shouting over each other the whole time, because he thinks that I'm completely wrong about this. when I say parity, I don't mean, this might be literally what the term parity means, so I get his point. I don't mean how many different teams have won a World Series in the last 20 years versus have won a Super Bowl versus have won an NBA Finals. Because it is true that Major League Baseball in this generation has had fewer dynasties than there have been in the NFL and in the NBA over that time. There have been more different teams winning pennants and winning World Series in Major League Baseball than there have been in the NFL and in the NBA. And so in that sense, MLB parity has been quite strong. I care less about that. What I mean by parity is really equity, equality of opportunity. To me, the fact that the two major dynasties in the NFL this century have come from essentially Boston, one of the 10 biggest markets in the country, and from Kansas City, one of the smallest markets in the NFL, is the entire point. What are the odds, and how different are the odds, that the Kansas City Royals can build a dynasty or that the Boston Red Sox can? And why in the NFL are those odds functionally the same? The Patriots did not build a dynasty because they had more money than everybody else, or they somehow or another had more leverage than everyone else by virtue of the size of their market. They did it because they drafted one of, if not the greatest quarterbacks in history in the 6th round. That's a pretty good comparative advantage, but they created it for themselves. Every other team in the NFL passed multiple times on drafting Tom Brady. The Patriots did as well. They passed multiple times on drafting Tom Brady. They just eventually said they would do it. The Chiefs, obviously, it's a different story because Mahomes was still a first rounder, but the Chiefs took him after plenty of teams passed on him, and other teams could have traded up to where the Chiefs did or in front of where the Chiefs did and drafted him. To me, that's very, very important. If I'm a Major League Baseball fan in a place like Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or Kansas City or St. Louis in some ways or Milwaukee or these markets that are either literally small, like the ones that I just named, or places like Miami, for example, or Tampa, where the market is maybe not literally small. Certainly in Miami's case, it's not, but where the team is functionally a small market team in terms of budget. If I'm in one of those places, I eventually am going to decide, you know what? I've had enough of playing at this sketchy casino where the deck is stacked. I can only lose money for so long. Just because I have a good team here and there, I've kind of had enough of it. If I'm a Rays fan, is it kind of cool that my team is way better at squeezing every little bit of juice out of this one lemon that we have? And therefore, we're able to be consistently competitive at a rate that is shocking considering our payroll. That is kind of fun. It's a fun story, especially from the outside. But you know what would get old? Is if your team consistently had to trade away its best players because although they got a lot of juice out of that one lemon, one of their primary competitors, and most of their primary competitors in their own division, and certainly the top competitors across Major League Baseball, have like 10 to 20 lemons. And they can afford to completely squander a few of them and then barely squeeze a few of the other ones and still end up with more juice in the Rays. Right? That would just get old. In the same way we have this conversation about college sports. What does the future of college sports look like if you're a fan of a school outside of the Power 4 or even the Power 2 or even the most powerful, wealthiest 15 or 20 schools in the Power 2? Right? What does that look like? Need something sustainable. So I think for the fans, feeling like there is more equitable opportunity out there is important. It is meaningful, and it will contribute to greater interest in the sport. And the reason that I think this is very promising, you heard Bernie and I were both kind of doing the same thing, bending over backwards to say, hey, I'm not normally pro-owner, right? Like, I'm not going out of my way here just to stick up for the owners because it is an unusual situation. But I think in that sense, the owners' interest, which is in creating a league with more equality of opportunity so as to maximize engagement from fans across the country, including in the bottom half of markets, and force some of those owners in the bottom 10 in spending to spend more to meet that floor, that lines up with the fans' interest. Are you going to accuse Rays fans of being anti-labor just because a bunch of rich guys are like, hey, we're going to force your owner to spend an extra $100 million every year. Would you like that? And they're like, yeah, that'd be pretty great. I would like that. I'm not going to accuse them of that. They're not being anti-labor. You know who is kind of anti-labor potentially? the top 5 or 10% of MLB earners and Scott Boras, who are pretending that they deserve to have a stronger voice in the union than the rank and file membership. And that's where we touched on this briefly. That's the last important point that I want to get to here, because it is going to be front and center by this winter. I guarantee you this is going to become a major talking point. The owners are positioning this such that the rank and file member, meaning not just the guys making league minimum, but the middle class player, probably the bottom 70 or 80% of players in Major League Baseball, certainly the median player and down, will make more money under this system. Because there will be, the minimum salary will go up, and there will be so much more money for those mid-tier guys available from the bottom half markets that otherwise are just not playing in the free agent waters at all. That's why those guys get squeezed, because the big market teams want to spend a ton on the Juan Sotos and the Shohei Ohtanis and the Kyle Tuckers of the world, and then the Rays and the Marlins and the Pirates don't want to spend on anybody. And so there's not a lot of teams in the middle to give fair valuations to those guys. If they can't get into that upper echelon, then they're kind of fishing around saying, who's left in my market? A floor cap system is going to greatly increase the market for those kinds of guys, as it has in the NBA, where you've got guys coming off the bench making $15 or $20 million a year. Two different sports, still apples and oranges, but those guys are going to make more money. And what we're going to see is the owners trying to, and probably succeeding in doing this, recruiting those players, even though this proposal might hurt players who are in the top 5 or 10% of earners. That what you'll do is benefit 50, 60, 70% of MLB players who will make more money. And eventually those guys, just being the majority of bodies in the union, will start to overpower even the most important, highest earning players. And I think it's very, very, very interesting, because they are an extremely unusual union in that they have a lot of power, and they also have a vast disparity of financial situations and career outlooks between their lowest earning, lowest job security members and their highest earning, highest job security members. And that is just unheard of in any union, anywhere, in any industry around the country. MLB's Players Union is truly unique, and it's setting up what is going to be a really, really interesting collective bargaining process. And I think that one, based on this initial offer from the owners, has a real chance to end in a viable cap floor system. And I would have told you even 6 months ago that was impossible. So nobody's excited about a labor dispute, but I think this is setting up to be an interesting negotiation. And although there might be some bloodshed, I think there's a real possibility, a much higher one than is normal at this stage of this kind of negotiation, that the fans end up better on the back end than we are on the front end. And that would be pretty cool, and it would make the negotiation bloodshed at least a little more worthwhile for you and I. We'll wrap up after this on KMOX.
You know, here in St. Louis, word of mouth still matters, and I'm pretty careful about who I recommend, especially when it comes to something as personal as estate planning. I'm Tom Ackerman. My family has been working with the Lederman Law Firm for over 20 years now, and the reason is simple. They don't just create documents and send you on your way. They help make sure your plan works. Because let's be honest, life changes. Family needs and circumstances change. Laws change. But most estate plans don't change over time as needs, circumstances, and laws change. They're outdated, sitting in a drawer. People assume they're fine, and their plan will work when they need it to work. At the Lederman Law Firm, it's not a one-time transaction. It's an ongoing process. They build a plan to protect your family and your assets, and then for a fixed annual fee, they help keep it up to date as both your life and assets change. Check out the Lederman Law Firm at LedermanLaw.com or give them a call at 314-514-9100. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
Don't miss Mosby Building Arts Home Improvement Show, Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on KMOX. One of the last call-in shows where you can get live answers to your remodeling, design, and construction questions. Tune in Saturdays at 11 a.m.
Feel the rhythm and turn it up, St. Louis. Legendary rock icons, Santana and the Doobie Brothers are bringing the heat to Hollywood Casino Amphitheater June 20th for the Oneness Tour 2026. From Black Magic Woman to Listen to the Music, this is the concert event fans don't want to miss. It'll be a summer night soon not forgotten. Santana, the Doobie Brothers. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.com. For more info, go to KMOX.com/events.
We've been here 30 years.
30 Christmases in this house, and we have the traditions that most families have.
That's Terry talking about her experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We did Rhino Shield 14 years ago, and the house still looks the same as the first day. Rhino Shield really worked with me to help me get just the right nice soft yellow, and it's 14 years later, and it's the same color.
The main reason Terry called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by its 25-year transferable warranty.
It just sounded wonderful that we could have the house coated with Rhino Shield and not have to worry about it again for 25 years.
Take it from Terry. Give Rhino Shield a call now for a free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
There have been neighbors that have come by and said, "Did you just have your house painted?" Because they wanted to know who the contractor was. And I said, "No, it's actually Rhino Shield."
877-25rhino.com.
When challenges show up in our community, united we help. We help families put food on the table. We help children learn, grow, and feel safe. We help neighbors through crises and everyday challenges. Across our region, United Way brings people together, supporting local nonprofits and helping over 1 million neighbors each year. Unite with us at helpingpeople.org.
I'm Tom Ackerman with this month's Siteman Cancer Center Spotlight, Skin Cancer Awareness this summertime, and we're joined by Dr. Aubriana McAvoy, a WashU medicine surgeon.
So I think most importantly, don't ignore a spot that's changing because early detection can save lives, and a quick skin check today could prevent a much bigger problem down the road.
Siteman Cancer Center, national leaders in cancer. For more information, visit siteman.washu.edu.
Hi, this is Charlie Brennan. I see clearly now thanks to the doctors, Greg Birdie, Ranjan Malhotra, Robert Brusati, and Andy Royer. You can too. YourEyeDoc.com.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-day kitchen and bath. It's all about time.
Save time and money.
Do it now, don't wait till later. Call the top-notch renovator. It's about time.
3 days or less.
At 3-day kitchen and bath.
Broadcasting from the Scott Credit Union Studio, 104.1 FM, KMOX.
Once again, the 2 hours of Gray Bar Sports Open Line have just flown by, and we are wrapping up now. I spent a lot of time on the MLB labor situation. I understand that might not be everybody's cup of tea, especially in June, but it was a Cardinals off day, so what do you want from me? And I do think it's going to be very, very interesting, not just because it's important. It's always important when those kinds of things happen, but I actually think if you're somebody who likes to engage at all with the business of sports or why do these things happen the way that they do, I think this negotiation will be much more interesting than one typically is for the average fan, because it's not just going to be owners and players pulling back and forth for points on the package, if you will, in terms of the revenue that they're making. It's going to be about what should the sport look like and why. What is important to the future of sport? What does the fan care about? What are our priorities? And I think those are interesting existential questions that are much more accessible, at least at the broad level, than the kind of granular back and forth that normally takes place across a labor negotiating table. And if that's not your thing, we also had Cardinals discussion with Bernie Miklasz in the first hour. We also had U.S. men's national team and local World Cup qualifier discussions in advance of the World Cup getting underway next week. That was in our second hour, and we visited with Lauren Harris of the McKendree University softball team, the NCAA Division II runners-up. We appreciate all of them for being with us. You can go back and hear any of those interviews or anything else you missed from this episode on the free Odyssey app, AUDACY. Matt Pauley will be back with you tomorrow, not Sports Open Line, but our Cardinals pregame here on KMOX and across the Cardinals radio network, powered by Gray Bar, starting at 6:20, 7:15. Cardinals at Busch against Cincinnati in the series opener, Leahy against Singer. For Kyle Sixta, my producer here in the studio, Nate Gatter, saying good night. This has been Gray Bar Sports Open Line.
Join the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra for an unforgettable evening of music with the legendary